There is a moment in every great sales career when the polish wears thin. You have memorized the scripts. You have internalized the acronyms SPIN, BANT, the challenger sale. You have attended the webinars about active listening and value-based selling. You smile in the mirror before your morning calls. You are professional, you are ethical, and you are struggling. You are struggling because the world has changed, but the training hasn't. The prospect doesn't answer your emails. The decision maker is hidden behind a fortress of gatekeepers. The budget has been frozen for the third quarter in a row. You offer value and they nod politely. You present a solution and they say, "We'll think about it." You are playing a game of chess against opponents who have already decided they don't want to play. Meanwhile, in the shadows of the economy, another class of salesperson thrives. They don't have a CRM. They don't have a marketing department or a glossy brochure. They don't have a code of ethics or a compliance officer breathing down their neck. They are the underworld sales force, the smugglers, the counterfeiters, the con artists, the cartel recruiters, and the black market dealers, and they are winning. They win because they are forced to. In the legitimate world, a missed quota is a bad quarter. In the underworld, a missed sale is a missed rent payment, a broken kneecap, or a prison sentence. That level of survival pressure strips away the niceties. It distills sales down to its raw, primordial essence, pure, unadulterated influence. These are the unwanted salesmen, the scoundrels, the villains. They are masters of the human psyche who have spent decades refining techniques that would make your average corporate sales trainer blush. They don't sell with logic, they sell with certainty. They don't build relationships, they build dependencies. They don't handle objections, they dismantle them. They have learned, through brutal trial and error, exactly which emotional levers to pull to make a human being say yes, even when every rational bone in their body screams no. And here is the uncomfortable truth that this book is built upon. Their tactics work. Let that land for a moment. I'm not suggesting you should lie, cheat, steal, or manipulate. I'm not suggesting you should sell counterfeit watches or dangerous substances. I am not suggesting you abandon your morals. What I am suggesting is far more provocative. The structure of a dark technique is often morally neutral. It is the intention and the product that make it evil. Think about it. A con artist uses urgency to force a victim into a bad decision. A legitimate salesperson uses urgency to help a client secure a limited-time discount. The technique, the creation of temporal scarcity, is identical. The outcome, one predatory, one beneficial, is entirely different. The weapon is the same. The hand that wields it determines the wound or the cure. This book is a heist. We are going to break into the underworld's playbook, steal their 9 most potent strategies, and scrub them clean. We will dissect how a drug dealer creates a phantom crowd to manufacture demand and apply that lesson to creating social proof for your SaaS product. We will analyze how a smuggler uses value stacking to hide the big ask, and apply that to building an irresistible offer for your consultancy. We will study the unwavering conviction of a cult leader and apply that to the genuine, unshakable belief you must have in your own legitimate solution. Why should you learn from the bad guys? Because they have no choice but to be brilliant. When you have no brand equity to fall back on, you have to be persuasive. When you cannot advertise, you have to be viral. When you cannot offer a warranty, you have to offer certainty. When you cannot rely on the law, you have to rely on your word. The unwanted salesmen are the ultimate street-level professors of persuasion. They understand that people don't buy products, they buy feelings. They buy safety, status, escape, identity, and relief. The bad guys know that the product is merely the excuse for the transaction. The real sale is the emotional resolution they provide. This book is not for the faint of heart. It will challenge your comfortable assumptions about what good sales looks like. It will ask you to look into the mirror of your own profession and admit that sometimes your ethical scripts are just cowardice dressed in a tie. It will demand that you embrace a level of tenacity, confidence, and psychological acuity that you may have previously associated with villains. But here is the promise. By the time you finish this book, you will never sell the same way again. You will move through your sales calls not as a supplicant begging for a chance, but as a force of nature who understands the hidden machinery of decision-making. You will be able to see the con in every manipulative pitch you encounter, and you will be able to craft your own truth so powerfully that it outshines any lie. You will become the salesman the underworld fears, the one who knows their secrets and uses them for good. So, steel yourself. We are going to walk into the darkness, not to stay there but to steal its fire. We are going to learn from the unwanted so that you can become truly, undeniably wanted. Welcome to the Underworld. The Unwanted Salesman, 9 Sales Strategies of the Underworld Sales Force. Sell anything with the bad guy's strategy, written and published by the Zillion Pro. Chapter 1. The Philosophy of the Shadow Seller, the Psychology of the Illicit Market. Why the bad guys are actually the ultimate students of human nature. Let me tell you about a man I'll call Victor. Victor was a mid-level pharmaceutical sales representative for a legitimate Fortune 500 company. He wore tailored suits, drove a leased BMW, and attended quarterly meetings in resort hotels where he was taught to discuss patient outcomes and clinical efficacy. He was a good man, a family man. He believed in his products, then the company restructured. Victor was laid off 6 months later. His savings were gone. The BMW was repossessed. His marriage was fraying. A former colleague, a man who had been fired years earlier for ethical breaches, reached out to him. This colleague now worked in a different kind of pharmaceutical sales, the unlicensed, underground kind. He wasn't selling painkillers to hospitals. He was selling them to people who had lost their prescriptions. Victor said no at first. Then he said maybe. Then he said yes. Within a year, Victor was making 3 times his old salary. He had a new car, a new apartment, and a new understanding of what sales actually meant. He told me, years later after he had served his time and rebuilt his life, something that haunted him more than the prison sentence. In the corporate world, they taught me to be persuasive. In the underworld, I was forced to be essential. I never understood the difference until I had no other choice. Victor's confession reveals the first and most uncomfortable truth of this book. The underworld doesn't sell products. It sells resolutions to existential crises. The need is the driver, not the want. In legitimate sales, we spend an enormous amount of time talking about wants. We ask prospects what they want in a solution. We conduct surveys about desired features. We build personas around customer preferences. We confuse desire with demand. The shadow seller knows this is a luxury they cannot afford. The illicit market is fundamentally driven by needs, not the fabricated needs of a marketing campaign, but the raw, gnawing, unignorable needs of the human condition. These are needs that are often stigmatized, illegal, or socially unacceptable. They include escape, the need to temporarily abandon a painful reality; status, the need to signal worth in a world that denies it; connection, the need to belong to a tribe, even a dangerous one; survival, the need to get through the day, the week, the month; control, the need to feel agency in a life that feels powerless. The drug dealer understands that his customer isn't buying a substance. They are buying a temporary vacation from their own mind. The counterfeit watch seller understands that their customer isn't buying a timepiece. They are buying the feeling of success they cannot yet afford. The smuggler understands that their customer isn't buying contraband. They are buying safety, speed, or the thrill of transgression. The legitimate salesperson, by contrast, often walks into a meeting and asks, "What features would you like to see?" This is a fatal error. It assumes the customer knows what they need. It assumes the need is rational. It assumes the customer is being honest with themselves. The shadow seller doesn't ask what the customer wants. The shadow seller observes what the customer cannot live without. Legitimate application. Stop asking your prospects what they want. Start diagnosing what they are running from. Every legitimate product solves a problem, but the real problem is almost never the stated one. The real problem is the anxiety behind the problem, the fear of being left behind, the shame of inefficiency, the terror of obsolescence. When you sell to that fear ethically, honestly, with genuine solutions, you move from nice to have to cannot live without. A moral playbook, separating tactic from morality. This is where the book gets uncomfortable. We have been conditioned to view sales tactics as inherently good or bad based on who uses them. A contract negotiation is good. A high-pressure close is bad. A follow-up email is good. Creating false urgency is bad. But the shadow seller operates in a world where morality is a liability. They don't distinguish between good tactics and bad tactics. They distinguish between tactics that work and tactics that don't. They have refined their approach through the most brutal form of Darwinism imaginable. Failure equals consequences that are swift, severe, and often physical. This environment has produced a playbook that is amoral. Not immoral, amoral. It is a set of psychological mechanisms that are fundamentally neutral. They are tools. A hammer can build a house or break a skull. The hammer doesn't care. Consider these examples of the amoral playbook: tactic Underworld use and their legitimate use. 1. Urgency: this batch is the last. Tomorrow the price doubles. Legitimate use: the early bird discount expires in 48 hours. 2. Social proof: paying actors to line up outside a nightclub to create the illusion of popularity. Legitimate use: publishing customer testimonials and case studies. 3. Scarcity: limiting supply to drive up the black market price of a product. Legitimate use: releasing a limited edition product to generate FOMO. 4. Authority: wearing a counterfeit uniform to gain access to restricted areas. Legitimate use: wearing a suit and displaying credentials to build trust. 5. Reciprocity: giving a free sample to create a sense of obligation. Legitimate use: offering a free consultation or trial period. Notice something. The tactic is identical. The context changes everything. The shadow seller knows that the human brain doesn't distinguish between a legitimate use of urgency and an illegitimate one. The brain responds to the stimulus, not the source. This is why con artists are so effective. They are hacking the same neural pathways that legitimate salespeople rely on: the uncomfortable insight. If you refuse to learn these tactics because they were developed by bad guys, you are voluntarily disarming yourself in a competitive arena where your competitors, both ethical and unethical, are fully armed. Legitimate application: stop moralizing tactics. Start evaluating them on 2 criteria. 1. Effectiveness: does it work? 2. Ethical alignment: can I use it honestly, transparently, and in the best interest of the customer? You can use the structure of a con without being a con artist. You can create urgency without lying. You can build social proof without fabricating it. You can leverage authority without impersonating someone you are not. The tactic is a skeleton. You flesh it out with integrity or you don't. That choice is yours: the urgency of survival. In the legitimate world, a missed sale is a footnote. In the underworld, it is a headline. This is the single greatest difference in mindset between the average salesperson and the shadow seller. The legitimate salesperson operates with a safety net. If this deal falls through, there's another prospect tomorrow. If this quarter is bad, there's next quarter. If this job doesn't work out, there's another company. The shadow seller doesn't have that luxury. The dealer who doesn't move product doesn't eat. The smuggler whose cargo is seized doesn't pay their crew. The con artist who gets caught doesn't walk free. This creates a psychological state that is impossible to replicate in legitimate sales. The urgency of immediate consequence. This urgency manifests in several ways. 1. Complete focus. The shadow seller is never distracted. Every interaction is treated as potentially life-changing. 2. No maybe. The shadow seller knows that maybe is a gentle no. They either close the deal or move on. There is no purgatory of following up next month. 3. Radical adaptation. If a tactic fails, it is discarded immediately. There is no ego. There is no attachment to a particular approach. There is only what works right now with this person. 4. Obsessive preparation. The shadow seller studies their mark like a biologist studies a specimen. They know their fears, their desires, their routines, their vulnerabilities. They don't wing it. Now, I am not suggesting you should adopt a siege mentality. I am not suggesting you should live in constant fear. But I am suggesting that the legitimate sales world has become too comfortable. We have normalized mediocrity. We have accepted "I'll follow up next week" as a professional response. We have allowed ourselves to be ghosted, ignored, and deprioritized because we can afford to. Legitimate application. Give yourself a survival mindset for every major deal. Not a fearful mindset, a focused one. Here is how: the one-deal rule. When you are in a critical negotiation, act as if this is the only deal you have. Not because it's true, but because it forces you to bring your absolute best self to the table. The no purgatory policy. If a prospect says maybe, give them a deadline to decide. If they don't meet it, move on. Your pipeline is too valuable to fill with ghosts. The masterclass preparation. Before every major pitch, spend an hour researching your prospect as if you were planning a con. Know their company, their industry, their personal history, their social media presence, and their stated and unstated pain points. The post-mortem. Every lost deal gets a forensic autopsy. Why did you lose? Was it price, timing, relationship, competitor, lack of urgency? Learn from every failure as if your career depended on it. The shadow seller's true identity. Let me tell you the ending of Victor's story. After his release from prison, Victor struggled to find work. His felony conviction was a permanent scarlet letter. Eventually, he found a job as a sales coach for a small tech startup that was willing to take a chance on him. At first, his colleagues were skeptical. Why hire a convicted criminal to teach sales? Within 6 months, the startup's revenue had tripled. Victor didn't teach them how to lie. He taught them how to listen. He taught them how to identify the unspoken fear behind every objection. He taught them how to build trust so deep that price became a secondary concern. He taught them how to create offers so compelling that competitors couldn't compete. One day, the CEO asked him, "Victor, how did you become so good at this?" Victor smiled. It was a sad smile, the kind that comes from knowledge purchased at a terrible price. "I learned," he said, "that there are two kinds of salespeople. The ones who sell because they want to close a deal, and the ones who sell because they understand the deal is just a container for something much deeper. In the underworld, you learn the second lesson fast, or you don't survive to learn anything at all." Victor understood the philosophy of the shadow seller. He had lived it. He had been consumed by it. And then he had been reborn, using the same tools to build rather than destroy. The bridge to the 9 strategies. This chapter has been a foundation. It has asked you to reconsider everything you thought you knew about sales. It has asked you to look at the bad guys not as monsters, but as masters of human nature who have something to teach you. Now, we move to the tactics. The next 9 chapters will each dissect a specific strategy from the Underworld's playbook. We will explore it in depth, showing how it works, why it works, and how it can be ethically adapted for legitimate sales. Before we do, I want you to make a commitment to yourself. It's a small commitment, but it is essential. For the duration of this book, I will not reject a strategy simply because of its source. I will evaluate it on its effectiveness and its potential for ethical application. If you can make that commitment, you are ready. Because the shadow seller is about to become your teacher, and the lesson begins now. Chapter 2. Strategy number 1. The Entourage Effect. Social proof in the phantom crowd. How drug dealers and luxury counterfeiters use fake demand and the crowd to validate a product's worth. In the summer of 1987, a group of artists and entrepreneurs in New York City did something that would forever change the way we understand desire. They took a vacant building on the corner of Houston and Crosby Streets, painted it white, and opened a store that sold nothing. Well, that's not entirely true. They sold absence. The store was called Comme des Garçons, and its founder, Ray Kawakubo, had a radical theory. People don't want what they can easily have. They want what others are fighting to get. So she created a retail experience that was deliberately unwelcoming: sterile white walls, minimal signage, no visible staff, and merchandise displayed like artifacts in a museum. There was no welcome, no "can I help you," no "buy one, get one free." Result: a line formed around the block. People waited hours to get inside. They bought clothes they didn't need at prices that were astronomical. Why? Because the perception of exclusivity created genuine demand. Kawakubo was not a criminal. She was a genius. But she was using a tactic that the underworld had perfected decades earlier: the entourage effect. The entourage effect is the principle that people evaluate a product not by its intrinsic qualities, but by the visible demand for it. A product that is surrounded by eager buyers appears more valuable than an identical product sitting alone on a shelf. The crowd is not just a marketing tool. It is a psychological validation mechanism that short-circuits rational decision-making. The corner strategy, the busiest dealer wins. Let me take you to a street corner in any major city. It doesn't matter which one. The dynamics are universal. On one corner, a dealer stands alone. He is visible. His product is available. But nobody is approaching him. He looks desperate. He looks like he has no customers, which makes passers-by wonder, why doesn't anyone want what he's selling? Is it bad? Is he a cop? Is there something wrong with it? On the next corner, another dealer stands surrounded by a small group of people. They are animated. They are handing over cash. They are receiving product. There is energy. There is activity. There is a crowd. Which dealer gets the next customer? The answer is obvious. The second dealer wins not because his product is better, it might be identical, but because he has engineered a perception of demand. The crowd signals safety, quality, and urgency. It says, this is the place to be. This is where the action is. If you don't act now, you might miss out. In the underworld, this is not accidental. The most successful dealers understand that their first job is not to sell product. It is to manufacture a crowd. They use friends, associates, and sometimes paid actors to create the illusion of a bustling enterprise. They know that a busy corner attracts customers the way a busy restaurant does. People assume the crowd knows something they don't. This is the entourage effect in its rawest form. It is the creation of phantom demand. Demand that exists not because people actually want the product, but because they believe other people want the product. The psychological mechanism. Humans are social animals. We are wired to follow the herd. When we see others engaging in a behavior, our brains release dopamine, the same chemical associated with pleasure and reward. We interpret the behavior as validated. We assume that if others are doing it, it must be safe, desirable, or valuable. This is called social proof, and it is one of the most powerful forces in human decision-making. The shadow seller exploits this mechanism ruthlessly. They understand that the crowd itself is the product. The product is just the excuse, the velvet rope, making the product scarce and difficult to access. The entourage effect has a cousin, and it is equally powerful, the velvet rope. In the nightclub industry, the velvet rope is a strategic tool. The club wants to be full, but it doesn't want to look too accessible. So they create a barrier, a rope, a bouncer, a guest list, that makes entry seem difficult. People wait in line, hopping to get in. The line itself becomes a marketing tool, signaling that the club is exclusive, desirable, and worth the wait. In the underworld, this tactic is used constantly. The counterfeit watch seller doesn't display their wares in a storefront. They require a referral. The drug dealer doesn't sell to strangers. They sell to known customers who can vouch for new ones. The smuggler doesn't advertise their services. They operate through networks of trust and secrecy. Why? Because difficulty of access increases perceived value. When something is hard to get, we want it more. When something is easy to get, we assume it must be cheap, low quality, or undesirable. Think about it. If a dealer approached you on the street and offered you a product, you would be suspicious. Why is he approaching me? Why is he so eager? What's wrong with it? But if you had to find the dealer through a friend, if you had to pass a background check, if you had to wait for an invitation, you would feel like you had earned the right to buy. You would feel special. You would feel like you were part of an exclusive club, and you would value the product more as a result. The psychological mechanism. This is called the scarcity principle. When something is perceived as limited or difficult to obtain, its perceived value increases. We fear losing the opportunity more than we desire the gain. This is why limited editions sell out instantly. It's why members-only clubs have cachet. It's why the velvet rope works. The shadow seller understands that they are not just selling a product, they are selling access. And access is a psychological trigger that can overcome almost any objection. The sold-out sign, weaponizing the fear of missing out. There is a legendary story in the world of luxury retail. A high-end watchmaker released a limited edition timepiece, only 50 units worldwide. They sold out in minutes. The demand was so high that the watches began appearing on secondary markets for 3 times their retail price. The watchmaker learned a lesson: scarcity sells. So the next year they released another limited edition, then another, then another. They turned scarcity into a business model. But here's the secret. The watchmaker wasn't actually losing money on the sold-out watches. They were creating demand. The sold-out sign was a marketing tool that trained customers to buy immediately, without hesitation, whenever a new product was released. In the underworld, the sold-out sign is weaponized constantly. The dealer who says, "This is the last batch, I don't know when I'll get more," is not just informing the customer, they are pressuring them. The smuggler who says, "I have a window of opportunity that closes in 24 hours," is not just stating a fact, they are compelling action. This is the fear of missing out, or FOMO. It is the anxiety that if you don't act now, you will lose an opportunity that will never come again. It is a powerful motivator because it taps into our deepest fear, the fear of loss. Loss aversion, as psychologists have shown, is twice as powerful as gain-seeking. We will work harder to avoid losing something than to gain something of equal value. The psychological mechanism. FOMO triggers the amygdala, the part of the brain responsible for fear and anxiety. It bypasses rational decision-making and creates a sense of urgency that feels almost physical. The customer who experiences FOMO doesn't think, "Is this a good decision?" They think, "I need to act now before it's too late." The shadow seller knows that a calm, rational customer is a resistant customer. A customer who feels urgency is a customer who acts. Legitimate application, using social proof to build momentum. Now we arrive at the critical question: how do you use these tactics ethically? The answer is simple but challenging. You don't fake the crowd, you build a real one. The underworld creates phantom demand because they have no other choice. They cannot advertise legally. They cannot publish genuine testimonials. They cannot build a brand in the traditional sense. So they fake it. You have the luxury of legitimacy. You can build real social proof. You can cultivate genuine scarcity. You can create authentic urgency. Here is how. 1. Build a real crowd, the testimonial engine. The most powerful form of social proof is the word of a satisfied customer. Not a paid actor, not a friend, not a fabricated review. A genuine, enthusiastic, verifiable customer. How to do it? Proactively ask for testimonials. Don't wait for customers to offer. Ask them specifically, "Would you be willing to share your experience with our product?" A few sentences about how it solved your problem would be invaluable. Make it easy. Provide a template. Offer to record a video call. Give them a platform where they can share their story with minimal friction. Use the before and after. The most powerful testimonials show the transformation. Before our product, we were struggling with X. After using it, we achieved Y. This creates a narrative that prospects can see themselves in. Show the crowd. When you have multiple testimonials, display them prominently. Show the logos of your clients. Show the number of users. Show the growth. Make the crowd visible. The ethical line: you are not fabricating the crowd. You are giving the crowd a voice. You are making the invisible visible too. Create genuine scarcity. The time-limited offer. Scarcity is only unethical if it is manufactured. If the scarcity is real, it is a legitimate tool. How to do it? Limited inventory. If you genuinely have limited stock, say so. "We only have 50 units of this product available at this price." Limited time. If a promotion is genuinely ending, say so. "This offer expires at midnight on Friday." Limited capacity. If you offer a service, you have a limited number of hours in the day. "I only have 3 consultation slots available this month." Limited opportunity. If you are offering early access to a new product or feature, make it clear that only a certain number of customers will receive it. The ethical line: the scarcity must be real. If you say limited inventory when you have a warehouse full, you are lying. If you say offer expires Friday and then extend it, you are lying. Honesty is not just an ethical choice, it's a practical one. Customers who discover they were manipulated will never trust you again. 3. Use FOMO ethically. The deadline driven by reality. FOMO is a powerful motivator, but it must be anchored in something real. How to do it? Demonstrate momentum. We are onboarding new clients rapidly and our team is at capacity. To ensure you receive the attention you deserve, we need to limit new engagements. If you want to work with us this quarter, we need to get started now. Show the window. Our product is currently in beta. The price will increase when we go to full launch. You can lock in the beta pricing now. Highlight the cost of delay. Every month you delay implementing this solution costs you X in lost revenue. The sooner you act, the sooner you start saving. Ethical line. You are not creating urgency. You are revealing it. You are showing the customer the genuine consequences of inaction. You are helping them see that the opportunity cost of thinking about it is real. The case study. How a legitimate company used the Entourage Effect. Let me tell you about a software company I worked with. They had a brilliant product, a project management tool that genuinely saved teams hours of work every week. But they were struggling to get traction. Their website was polished. Their demo was impressive, but prospects would visit the site, look around, and leave. No sales, the problem. No visible crowd. The company had plenty of happy customers, but they weren't showing them off. Their testimonials were buried on an obscure page. Their case studies were PDFs that nobody downloaded. Their social media presence was sparse. When a prospect visited their site, they saw a polished but empty room. We implemented a simple change. We put the crowd front and center. We added a live counter. 1,247 teams trust us to manage their projects. We featured video testimonials on the homepage. We created a wall of love with customer logos, quotes, and photos. We started a weekly webinar where existing customers shared their success stories. Within 3 months, the company's conversion rate doubled. Prospects didn't just see a product, they saw a movement. They saw other companies like theirs finding value. They saw the crowd, and the crowd validated the product. The lesson: you don't need to fabricate a crowd. You just need to make the crowd visible. Your existing customers are your greatest asset. Use them. The shadow seller's secret. The crowd is a self-fulfilling prophecy. There is one final insight from the underworld that is worth understanding. The entourage effect is not just a tactic, it is a self-fulfilling prophecy. When you create the perception of demand, you often create actual demand. People see the crowd and want to join. The crowd grows. The perception becomes reality. The shadow seller knows that momentum is everything. The first few customers are the hardest to get. But once you have a visible crowd, the crowd attracts more people. The snowball starts rolling. Your job as a legitimate salesperson is to start that snowball. And the way you start it is by making your crowd visible. Action steps: 1. Audit your social proof. Go to your website, your sales deck, and your marketing materials. Ask yourself, is the crowd visible? Can a prospect see that other people like them are using your product? If not, fix it immediately. 2. Create a testimonial system. Proactively ask your best customers for testimonials. Make it easy for them. Showcase their stories prominently. 3. Use numbers. Join 1,000 plus satisfied customers. Used by 50 Fortune 500 companies. Trusted by 10,000 users. Numbers create the perception of scale. 4. Create a wall of love. Feature customer photos, logos, and quotes on your homepage and in your sales presentations. 5. Leverage social media. Show your customers using your product. Share their success stories. Celebrate their wins. Make the crowd visible. 6. Be transparent about availability. If you are genuinely limited, say so. If you have a limited time offer, say so. If you are at capacity, say so. The truth is more powerful than any manufactured story. The entourage effect is the first strategy of the underworld, and it is one of the most powerful tools in any salesperson's arsenal. When used ethically, it doesn't manipulate, it illuminates. It shows prospects that they are not alone. It shows them that others have taken the leap and succeeded. It builds the confidence to say yes. Chapter 3. Strategy number 2. The script of certainty. The confidence of the con artist. How bad guys eliminate all doubt in their own product to eliminate doubt in the buyer. In 2002, a man named Frank Abagnale, the real-life inspiration for the film Catch Me If You Can, gave a lecture to a room full of FBI agents. Abagnale had spent his youth impersonating a pilot, a doctor, and a lawyer, cashing millions of dollars in fraudulent checks. He had been caught, imprisoned, and eventually rehabilitated. Now he was teaching the very people who had arrested him how to spot people like his former self. An agent raised his hand and asked a question that has haunted salespeople ever since. "Frank, how did you get away with it for so long? How did you convince people you were something you weren't?" Abagnale smiled and gave an answer that reveals the heart of this chapter, "Because I believed it. In the moment, I didn't think I was pretending. I was the pilot, I was the doctor, I was the lawyer. If I had doubted myself for even a second, they would have seen it, so I didn't doubt, I just was." This is the script of certainty. It is the ability to project absolute, unshakable conviction in your product, your message, and yourself, to the point where doubt becomes impossible. The shadow seller knows that certainty is contagious. When you are certain, the buyer absorbs that certainty. When you hesitate, they hesitate. When you waver, they run. The no shame, how confidence overrides logic. Let's conduct a thought experiment. You are walking down a crowded street. A man approaches you. He is well-dressed, calm, and looks you directly in the eye. He says, "Excuse me, I'm conducting a survey for the city. Could you spare 30 seconds? You stop. You answer his questions. You walk away. Now imagine the same scenario. The same man approaches you. But this time he looks at the ground. He stammers. He says, "Excuse me, I'm doing a survey. If you have time, it's okay if you don't." You keep walking. What was the difference? The product was identical. The words were almost identical. The only variable was the level of certainty projected by the speaker. This is the no shame. It is the phenomenon where a salesperson feels so much shame about their pitch, their product, their price, their very existence as a salesperson that they apologize for their presence. They ask permission to speak. They hedge their statements. They use qualifiers like "I think," "maybe," "possibly," and "if you're interested." The shadow seller never apologizes for their presence. They never hedge, they never qualify. They project a sense of entitlement to the conversation. Not arrogance, entitlement. They believe genuinely and completely that they are doing the customer a favor by being there. The psychological mechanism. Humans are hardwired to follow confident leaders. In uncertain situations, we look to those who project certainty to guide us. This is called social referencing, and it begins in infancy. Bobbies look at their parents' faces to determine whether a situation is safe. Adults do the same thing with salespeople. If you look certain, the customer feels safe. If you look uncertain, the customer feels danger. The shadow seller exploits this mechanism ruthlessly. They understand that in the absence of objective information, the buyer will use the salesperson's confidence as a proxy for truth. If the salesperson believes in the product, it must be good. If the salesperson hesitates, there must be something wrong. Tone, body language, and the unshakable frame. The script of certainty is not just about the words you say. It is about the entire package. Your tone, your body language, your energy, and what we call your frame. Frame is the invisible structure of the interaction. It determines who is in control, who has the authority, and who is serving whom. In a weak frame, the salesperson is a supplicant, hoping the customer will grant them a favor. In a strong frame, the salesperson is an expert, offering a valuable solution to a deserving customer. The shadow seller maintains an unshakable frame. Here is how. 1. Tone of voice. The shadow seller speaks with a steady, even tone. They don't rush. They don't babble. They don't fill silences with nervous chatter. They pause. They let their words land. They project calm authority, legitimate application. Record yourself on a sales call. Listen for nervousness. Listen for speed. Listen for qualifiers. Then practice slowing down. Practice pausing. Practice speaking as if you are doing the customer a favor by sharing your expertise too. Body language. The shadow seller occupies space. They stand tall. They make eye contact. They gesture with purpose. They don't fidget. They don't cross their arms. They don't look at the floor. They are physically present and grounded. Legitimate application. Before any sales call, take a moment to check your body. Are your shoulders back? Is your chin up? Are you breathing deeply? Your physical state affects your mental state. Change your body, change your confidence. 3. Vocal fillers. The shadow seller never says like, you know, or I think. These are leaks of uncertainty. They signal to the buyer that the salesperson is not fully committed to what they are saying. Legitimate application. Eliminate vocal fillers from your speech. Practice speaking in complete sentences. If you need a moment to think, pause. Silence is more powerful than a verbal filler. 4. The no explanations rule. The shadow seller never over-explains. They state their position clearly and move on. They don't justify their price, defend their product, or apologize for their presence. They assume that the value is self-evident. Legitimate application: when you state your price, state it once. Don't explain it, don't justify it, don't defend it, let it sit. If the customer asks for clarification, provide it, but don't preemptively apologize for the number. The 180-degree pivot, turning objections into confirmations. In the underworld, objections are not seen as barriers. They are seen as invitations. The shadow seller knows that when a customer objects, they are signaling their interest. Indifferent customers don't object, they just walk away. Objections mean the customer is engaged, wrestling with the decision and looking for reassurance. The shadow seller's response to an objection is a 180-degree pivot. They don't defend, they don't argue, they don't get defensive. Instead, they agree and reframe. Let me show you how this works. Objection: your price is too high. Response: oh, I understand. We can work on the price. What would you be comfortable with? You have just lost control of the conversation. The customer is now dictating terms. Shadow seller response: I completely understand why you would say that. Frankly, if I didn't understand the value of what we're offering, I would say the same thing. Let me show you why this price is actually a bargain. You have acknowledged their concern, validated their feeling, and reframed the objection as a lack of information rather than a problem with the product. Objection: I need to think about it. Response: of course, take all the time you need. Let me know when you've made a decision. You have given away all your leverage. The customer will likely never call back. Shadow seller response: I completely understand. This is a big decision. In fact, I'd be worried if you didn't want to think about it. But I've noticed that when people say they want to think about it, what they're usually saying is that they have a question they haven't asked yet. Can I ask, what's the real concern here? You have validated their caution, taken control of the timeline, and uncovered the hidden objection. Objection: I'm not sure this is the right fit. Weak response: oh, I'm sorry to hear that. Maybe we can find a different solution. You have conceded defeat and invited rejection. Shadow seller response: that's a fair concern. And in fact, that's exactly why I'm so confident we are the right fit. Let me explain why customers with your exact concern have ended up being our most successful clients. You have turned the objection into a testimonial and reframed the concern as evidence of fit. The psychological mechanism. This is called reframing. It is the process of changing the meaning of a statement by putting it in a new context. The shadow seller doesn't fight the objection. They absorb it and transform it. They take the customer's fear and turn it into an opportunity to reinforce their certainty. Legitimate application. Before your next sales call, write down the top 5 objections you hear most frequently. Then write a 180-degree pivot response for each one. Practice them until they feel natural. When the objection comes, you won't be defensive. You'll be ready. The uncomfortable truth: certainty requires conviction. Here is the part of the script of certainty that makes legitimate salespeople uncomfortable. The shadow seller's certainty is often manufactured. They may not actually believe in their product. They may know it is counterfeit, dangerous, or illegal, but they project conviction anyway. They separate their internal doubt from their external presentation. You, as a legitimate salesperson, have a harder task. You must find genuine conviction. You cannot fake certainty convincingly, not for long. The customer will eventually see through it. But you can cultivate genuine conviction by doing the following. 1. Deep product knowledge. Certainty comes from mastery. The shadow seller knows their product inside and out. They know what it can do, what it can't do, and how to position it. You must do the same. Know your product better than anyone. Know its history, its features, its limitations, its competition, and its ideal use cases. When you are the expert, certainty flows naturally too. Belief in the solution. The shadow seller often doesn't care about their customer. You do. You are selling something that genuinely helps people. You are solving real problems. You are improving lives. Internalize that. Remind yourself daily of the impact you have. When you truly believe that your product helps, your certainty becomes unassailable. 3. Alignment with your values. The shadow seller often operates from a place of desperation. You operate from a place of purpose. You are not selling to survive, you are selling to serve. When your work aligns with your values, certainty is not something you need to manufacture. It is something you simply are for, evidence of success. The shadow seller has to fake their track record. You have a real one, you have case studies, you have testimonials, you have data. Use these as anchors of certainty. When you feel doubt, remember the customers you have helped. Remember the problems you have solved. Let their success be your conviction, the case study, the psychic, and the certainty paradox. Let me tell you about a woman I met named Carla. She was a psychic, not a fraud, not a charlatan, a genuine card-carrying, professionally practicing psychic. She ran a small storefront in a strip mall. She did tarot readings, palm readings, and aura cleansings. She had a steady stream of customers. She charged $75 for a 30-minute session. One day I asked her, "Carla, what is the secret to your success? There are a dozen other psychics in this city. Why do people keep coming to you?" She laughed. "You want to know the secret? I'll tell you. I never say I think. I never say maybe. I never say could be. I say you will and you are, and this is what is happening. People don't come to a psychic for possibilities. They come for certainty. They come because life is uncertain and they need someone to tell them it's going to be okay. So I tell them and they believe me." I pressed her. "But what if you're wrong? What if you're not sure?" "Doesn't matter," she said. "My job is not to be right. My job is to be certain. If I'm certain, they feel safe. And if they feel safe, they feel better. And if they feel better, they come back. The truth is, most of what I tell them they already know deep down. They just need someone to say it out loud with conviction." Carla was not selling predictions. She was selling certainty. And her customers bought it not because she had supernatural powers, but because she projected an unshakable frame. Now, I am not suggesting you become a psychic. But I am suggesting that Carla understood something essential about human nature. We crave certainty. We crave someone who knows. We crave a guide. Be that guide. Not with lies, but with genuine conviction. Not with arrogance, but with authority. Not with manipulation, but with mastery, the danger, certainty without ethics. There is a shadow side to certainty. It is the ability to project confidence in a lie. It is the ability to convince people of something that is not true. It is the ability to manipulate, exploit, and deceive. This is why the script of certainty must be anchored in ethics. If you project certainty about a product you know is flawed, you are a fraud. If you project certainty about a price you know is unfair, you are a predator. If you project certainty about a timeline you know is impossible, you are a liar. The ethical line is simple. Only project certainty in what you genuinely believe is true. Only use your confidence to serve the customer's best interest. Only use your authority to guide them toward a decision that genuinely helps them. The shadow seller crosses this line. That is why they are the bad guys. You must never cross it. Your certainty must be genuine, earned, and aligned with the truth. The practice: how to cultivate your script of certainty. Certainty is a skill. It can be cultivated. Here is a 4-week practice to develop your own script of certainty. Week 1. The audit. Record every sales conversation you have for 1 week. Listen back to them. Identify every qualifier, hesitation, and filler. Note every time you apologize for your product, your price, or your presence. Count them. Become aware of the leaks in your certainty. Week 2, the elimination. For 1 week, eliminate the following words from your sales vocabulary. I think, maybe, possibly, hopefully, if you're interested. When you have a moment, I'm not sure, and I could be wrong. Replace them with declarative statements. A product solves X. You will benefit from Y. This is the right decision. Week 3, the pivot. For 1 week, practice the 180-degree pivot on every objection you hear. Don't defend, don't argue, agree and reframe. Turn every objection into a confirmation of your value. Week 4, the frame. For 1 week, practice your physical presence. Before every call, take 2 minutes to ground yourself. Stand tall, breathe deeply. Visualize yourself as an expert offering a solution. Enter every conversation with the frame of authority, not supplication. The shadow seller's secret: certainty is contagious. There is one final insight from the underworld that is worth understanding. The shadow seller knows that certainty is contagious. When they project certainty, the customer absorbs it. The customer becomes certain too. The transaction becomes inevitable. This is not magic. It is psychology. Humans are social creatures. We mirror the emotions and states of those around us. When you are calm, the customer calms. When you are confident, the customer gains confidence. When you are certain, the customer decides. Your job is not to persuade the customer. Your job is to infect the customer with your certainty. When you believe, they believe. When you know, they know. When you are certain, they act. Action steps. 1. Develop a certainty mantra. Before every sales interaction, repeat a phrase that anchors your conviction. I am the expert. I am here to help. This product changes lives. I am certain. 2. Visualize success before a pitch. Visualize the customer saying yes. Visualize them smiling. Visualize them thanking you. This programs your brain for certainty. 3. Know your why. Write down why you believe in your product. Write down how it helps people. Keep this document close. When doubt creeps in, read it. 4. Practice the pause. When you are asked a difficult question, pause, take a breath. Don't rush to fill the silence. The pause projects confidence. It signals that you are thoughtful and in control. 5. Embrace rejection. Certainty is not fearlessness. It is the ability to move through fear. Rejection is inevitable, but it doesn't define you. You define you. The script of certainty is the second strategy of the underworld, and it is the foundation of all influence. Without certainty, the crowd in Chapter 2 is meaningless. Without certainty, the urgency in later chapters is hollow. Certainty is the engine that drives every other strategy. Chapter 4, Strategy Number 3, The Trusted Fixer, Building Relational Capital in a High-Risk Environment. Why the neighborhood dealer relies on relationships, not just transactions. The power of being the go-to person. In the early 2000s, a man named Jose operated a small, unlicensed convenience store in a working-class neighborhood of Los Angeles. He sold chips, soda, candy, and cigarettes, all legitimate products, all above board. But he also sold something else: trust. Jose knew every customer by name. He knew their children's names. He knew their birthdays. He knew when they were sick, when they were celebrating, and when they were struggling. He extended credit to those who needed it. He gave small gifts to the children who came in with their parents. He remembered the little things: a customer's favorite brand of soda, another's preference for salty over sweet. When the neighborhood changed and crime increased, Jose's store remained untouched. When larger chains moved in with lower prices, Jose's customers stayed loyal. When a recession hit and people tightened their belts, Jose's revenue barely dipped. A journalist once asked a customer why she kept shopping at Jose's when the supermarket down the street was cheaper. The customer looked confused by the question. "Because Jose is Jose," she said. "He's our guy. He takes care of us. Why would I go anywhere else?" This is the trusted fixer. It is the salesperson who becomes more than a vendor. They become a pillar of the customer's life. They become the person the customer turns to not just for a product, but for security, guidance, and certainty. In the legitimate world, we call this relationship selling. In the underworld, it is survival beyond the product, selling reliability, consistency, and safety. In the legitimate world, we are taught to focus on the product. We highlight its features. We demonstrate its benefits. We compare it to competitors. We assume that if the product is good enough, the customer will buy. The shadow seller knows this is a mistake. In the underworld, products are often commodities. One dealer's cocaine is chemically identical to another's. One smuggler's route is geographically similar to another's. One counterfeiter's watch looks the same as the next. There is no product differentiation. There is no brand loyalty built on quality alone. So what differentiates the successful shadow seller from the unsuccessful one? Reliability. The trusted fixer is the dealer who always shows up, the smuggler who never loses a shipment, the counterfeiter who delivers on time. In a world without contracts, guarantees, or legal recourse, reliability is the only currency that matters. Consistency. The trusted fixer is predictable. The customer knows exactly what they will get when they will get it, and how the transaction will unfold. There are no surprises. There is no variability. There is no risk. Safety. The trusted fixer reduces the customer's anxiety. In an illegal transaction, the customer is taking a risk every time they engage. They risk arrest, theft, violence, and betrayal. The trusted fixer mitigates that risk. The customer knows that dealing with Jose is safe. The customer knows that Jose won't set them up, cheat them, or disappear. The psychological mechanism. This is called relational capital. It is the trust, goodwill, and mutual obligation that accumulates in a relationship over time. When relational capital is high, the customer stops evaluating the transaction on its merits. They buy because they trust the person. The product becomes secondary. The shadow seller understands that the relationship is the product. The transaction is just the delivery mechanism. The my guy phenomenon, the bond that transcends price. There is a phrase you hear in the underworld and in the legitimate world alike. I've got a guy. When someone says they have a guy, they are not talking about a vendor. They are talking about a person they trust implicitly. Their guy is the plumber they call when a pipe bursts. Their guy is the mechanic they trust with their car. Their guy is the real estate agent who always finds them the best deals. Their guy is the dealer who always has the best product at the fairest price. The my guy phenomenon is built on 3 pillars. 1. Personal knowledge. The trusted fixer knows the customer. Not just their name, but their preferences, their history, their family, their circumstances. This knowledge allows the trusted fixer to anticipate needs before the customer articulates them. When Jose knew a customer was struggling financially, he extended credit. When he knew a customer was celebrating, he gave a small gift. He didn't wait to be asked. He just knew too. Benevolence. The trusted fixer genuinely cares about the customer's well-being. This is not manipulation. This is real. The trusted fixer wants the customer to succeed because the customer's success is the trusted fixer's success. A happy customer returns. A satisfied customer refers. A grateful customer stays loyal forever. 3. Consistency. The trusted fixer is always the same. They are never in a bad mood. They never rush. They never make the customer feel like a burden. They are always available, always reliable, always the same steady presence, the psychological mechanism. When a customer has a my guy relationship, they stop evaluating the product on price. They are not buying a commodity, they are buying peace of mind. The trusted fixer has become part of the customer's identity. Leaving them would feel like a betrayal of a personal bond, listening for the unspoken need, selling identity, not product. The trusted fixer knows that the customer is not buying what they say they are buying. The customer who walks into Jose's store for a soda is not buying a soda. They are buying a moment of recognition. They are buying the feeling of being seen, known, and valued. The soda is just the excuse. The customer who buys a counterfeit Rolex is not buying a watch. They are buying the feeling of success, the ability to project status and wealth that they may not yet have achieved. The watch is just the prop. The customer who pays a smuggler to move goods across a border is not buying transportation. They are buying relief, the end of anxiety about whether their goods will be seized. The crossing is just the service. The trusted fixer listens for these unspoken needs. They don't ask, "What features do you want?" They observe, "What are you really trying to accomplish here? What is the deeper desire? What is the fear you haven't named?" Legitimate application. Stop selling the product. Start selling the resolution. Your customer doesn't want your software. They want the efficiency it provides. They don't want your consulting. They want the clarity and direction you offer. They don't want your training. They want the confidence and competence it unlocks. Identify the unspoken need. Then sell that. How the underworld builds relational capital. The shadow seller is a master of relational capital. They build it deliberately, systematically, and relentlessly. Here is their playbook. 1. The memorization game. The trusted fixer remembers everything. They remember names, faces, preferences, birthdays, anniversaries, and personal details. They do this not because they have a great memory, but because they prioritize it. They know that a remembered detail is a deposit in the relational capital account. Legitimate application. Before every sales call, research your prospect. Find their LinkedIn profile, check their Twitter feed, read their company's press releases. Look for personal details, hobbies, interests, family, causes they care about. Use that information in your conversation, not as a tactic but as a genuine expression of interest too. The small gesture the trusted fixer is always giving. A small gift, a piece of useful information, a favor, a kind word. These gestures are not grand or expensive. They are thoughtful. They signal to the customer that the trusted fixer is thinking about them even when there is no transaction. Legitimate application. Send a follow-up email with a relevant article. Send a handwritten thank you note. Share a piece of industry intelligence. Send a gift on their birthday. These small gestures build relational capital that pays dividends when it's time to close a deal. 3. The consistent presence. The trusted fixer is always there. They are never too busy to take a call. They never disappear when things get difficult. They are a constant, steady presence in the customer's life. Legitimate application, be available, respond to emails promptly, answer the phone, follow up when you say you will. Consistency is a form of trust building. When the customer knows they can count on you, they will count on you. 4. The no ultimatum approach. The trusted fixer never pressures. They never issue ultimatums. They never make the customer feel backed into a corner. They understand that pressure erodes trust. They create space for the customer to make their own decision. Legitimate application, give your customers space. Don't pressure them to decide. Don't threaten to withdraw the offer. Trust that if you have built a strong relationship and presented genuine value, the customer will choose you. 5. The referral ask. The trusted fixer asks for referrals, but not as a transaction. They ask because they genuinely believe they can help the referred person. They ask because they want to serve more people. They ask because they see the customer's network as an opportunity to do good. Legitimate application. When you ask for a referral, do it from a place of service. I'm really proud of the work we've done together. I'd love to help more people like you. Do you know anyone who might benefit from what we do? This positions the referral as an act of generosity, not a sales tactic. The case study, the barber who built an empire. Let me tell you about a man named Malik. Malik was a barber in a small shop in Brooklyn. He had a modest clientele, a steady income, and no ambition to expand. He was content, but Malik had a secret. He was a master of relational capital. Malik remembered every client's haircut history. He remembered their kids' names. He remembered their jobs, their struggles, their victories. He was a therapist as much as a barber. His clients came to him not just for a haircut, but for the conversation, the connection, the feeling of being known. One day, a client, a venture capitalist, offered to invest in Malik's business. Malik said no. I don't want a big shop, he said. I want my shop, I want my people, I want what I have. Venture capitalist was stunned. But you could make so much more money, he said. Malik smiled. Money isn't what I'm selling peace. I'm selling familiarity. I'm selling a place where my clients feel safe. You can't scale that. You can only protect it. Malik understood the trusted fixer philosophy better than most. He knew that his relational capital was more valuable than any product he could sell. He was not a barber, he was a fixer, and his clients would never go anywhere else. The dark side. When the trusted fixer exploits trust, there is a dark side to relational capital. The trusted fixer can use their relationship to exploit the customer. In the underworld, this happens constantly. The drug dealer who becomes a friend begins to pressure the customer to buy more. The smuggler who has built trust begins to charge higher fees, knowing the customer won't leave. The counterfeiter who has earned loyalty begins to deliver inferior product, relying on the relationship to mask the decline. This is where the shadow seller crosses the line from fixer to predator. The ethical line, your relational capital must never be used to exploit, it must be used to serve. When you build trust, you have an obligation to protect that trust. You must never take advantage of the customer's vulnerability. You must never use your relationship to push a product the customer doesn't need. You must never exploit the customer's loyalty for short-term gain. The trusted fixer serves. The predator consumes. Be the former, never the latter. The practice, how to become a trusted fixer. Building relational capital is a skill. Here is a 4-step practice to become a trusted fixer. Step 1. The knowledge audit for your top 10 customers. Write down everything you know about them. Their names, their families, their preferences, their history, their goals, their challenges. If you can't fill a page for each customer, you don't know them well enough. Start learning. Step 2. The gesture calendar. Schedule one small gesture for each of your top customers every month. A personal email, a relevant article, a birthday card, a coffee invitation. This is not about selling. It's about staying present. Step 3. The referral conversation. Once you have built relational capital, have the referral conversation. Position it as a service. I'd love to help more people like you. Who do you know who might benefit from what we do? This is the ultimate test of your relational capital. If the customer trusts you, they will refer. If they don't, you need to build more trust. Step 4, the relationship review. At the end of every quarter, review your top 10 relationships. Are they growing? Are you serving them well? Have you exploited their trust? Are you still the person they trust? If not, adjust. The shadow seller's secret. Trust is the ultimate currency. There is one final insight from the underworld that is worth understanding. In the legitimate world, we sell products. We sell services. We sell features and benefits and price points. But in the underworld, the shadow seller sells something more fundamental: trust. When trust is high, price is irrelevant. When trust is high, competition is irrelevant. When trust is high, the customer will follow you anywhere. The shadow seller knows that they are not selling a commodity. They are selling themselves. They are selling their word, their reliability, their consistency, their care. The product is just the vessel. Your job as a legitimate salesperson is to become the trusted fixer, to become the person your customers trust implicitly, to become the person they turn to not just for a product, but for guidance, support, and certainty. When you achieve that, you have moved beyond sales. You have become indispensable. You have become the my guy. And when you are the my guy, you don't just win the sale. You win the customer for life. Action steps. 1. Identify your top 10 customers. Write down everything you know about them. Fill in the gaps by doing research or having a genuine conversation. 2. Schedule one gesture per customer per month. It doesn't have to be big. It has to be thoughtful. 3. Practice active listening. On your next call, focus entirely on understanding the customer. Don't prepare your response, just listen. Then respond. 4. Ask the referral question. But do it from a place of service, not transaction. I want to help more people like you. Who should I talk to? 5. Protect the trust. Never exploit your relational capital. Never push a product the customer doesn't need. Never take advantage of loyalty. Trust is your most valuable asset. Protect it fiercely. The trusted fixer is the third strategy of the underworld, and it is the foundation of lasting success. Without trust, the crowd from Chapter 2 will disperse. Without trust, the certainty from Chapter 3 will feel hollow. Trust is what converts a transaction into a relationship. It is what turns a customer into a champion. Chapter 5. Strategy number 4, the Trojan Horse, value stacking and the irresistible offer. How smugglers hide the big ask within a package of overwhelming value. In ancient Greece, the city of Troy was considered impregnable. Its walls were massive. Its defenses were formidable. For 10 years, the Greek army had laid siege to the city, and for 10 years they had failed to breach its gates. Then Odysseus had an idea. The Greeks built a massive wooden horse. They left it outside the gates of Troy and sailed away, seemingly in defeat. The Trojans, believing the horse to be a gift or a trophy, dragged it inside their walls. That night, Greek soldiers emerged from the horse's hollow belly, opened the gates, and sacked the city. The Trojan horse is one of history's most enduring metaphors for deception. But it is also one of the most powerful sales strategies ever devised. The shadow seller understands the Trojan horse principle intimately. They know that if you present the ask directly, buy this illegal product, the customer will resist. The ask is too big, too risky, too overt. But if you bury the ask within a package of overwhelming value, the customer will accept it willingly. They won't even see the ask. They will see only the gift. This is the strategy of value stacking. It is the art of building an offer so compelling, so overflowing with perceived value, that the customer stops evaluating the individual components. They stop asking, is this worth it? They start asking, how do I get this? The distraction, adding extras to make the main product seem cheaper. Let me take you inside a counterfeit operation in Guangzhou, China. A tourist walks into a market filled with knockoff luxury goods. They are looking for a counterfeit Rolex. The seller shows them a watch. It looks good. The price is $200. The tourist hesitates. That's more than they wanted to spend. The seller smiles. For $200, I give you the watch, the box, the papers, the warranty card, and a leather carrying case. Also, I give you a free pen. Also, I give you a free belt. Also, I give you a free lighter. Suddenly, $200 doesn't seem so expensive. The tourist isn't buying a watch anymore. They are buying an asterisk experience asterisk, a bundle of items that feels generous, abundant, and valuable. The watch is still $200. But now it comes with a narrative of value that makes the price feel reasonable. This is the distraction. The seller has added extras that cost them almost nothing, to distract the customer from the core price. The customer's brain is now evaluating the entire bundle, not the individual watch. The perceived value of the bundle exceeds the price, so the customer buys. The psychological mechanism. This is called the decoy effect or the contrast principle. When we evaluate a single item, we focus on its price. But when we evaluate a bundle, we focus on the aggregate value. The extras create a halo effect that makes the core product seem more valuable and the price seem more reasonable. The shadow seller understands that the customer is not buying a product. They are buying a package of benefits. If you can make that package feel generous, the customer will stop haggling. The bundle, creating a package so attractive that price becomes secondary. The bundle is the most powerful form of value stacking. It is the combination of multiple products or services into a single, cohesive offer that is greater than the sum of its parts. In the legitimate world, we see bundles everywhere. The cable company bundles internet, TV, and phone. The fast food restaurant bundles a burger, fries, and a drink. The software company bundles multiple features into a single subscription, but the shadow seller takes the bundle to a new level. They understand that the bundle is not just a pricing tool. It is a psychological weapon. Here is how they do it. 1. The anchor product. The shadow seller selects a primary product, the thing they actually want to sell. This is the Trojan Horse. In the counterfeit watch example, the anchor is the watch too. The value adders. The shadow seller adds secondary products or services that have high perceived value but low actual cost. In the watch example, these are the box, the papers, the carrying case, the pen, the belt, and the lighter. 3. The narrative. The shadow seller tells a story about the bundle. This isn't just a watch, this is a complete luxury experience. The box alone is worth $100. The papers make it look authentic. The carrying case protects your investment. The pen and belt are bonuses because I like you. 4. The price anchoring. The shadow seller states a price that is higher than the anchor product alone but lower than the sum of all the parts. The watch alone would be $300, but for you, with everything included, just $200. The psychological mechanism. This is called price anchoring. The customer's brain creates a mental anchor at $300, the value of the watch alone. When the seller offers the bundle for $200, the customer perceives a discount, even though the watch alone was never actually worth $300. The anchor is a fiction, but the brain accepts it. The free gift principle, the psychology of reciprocity. The shadow seller knows one of the most powerful psychological principles in sales: reciprocity. Reciprocity is the human tendency to return a favor. When someone gives us something, we feel an unconscious obligation to give something back. It is a deeply ingrained social norm that transcends culture, context, and even morality. The shadow seller exploits this ruthlessly. They give small gifts, free samples, bonuses, discounts, to create a sense of obligation in the customer. The customer feels compelled to reciprocate by making the purchase. In the counterfeit watch example, the free pen, belt, and lighter are not just value adders. They are reciprocity triggers. The seller is giving the customer something for nothing. The customer feels a subconscious pressure to return the favor by buying the watch. Legitimate application. The free gift principle can be used ethically in almost any sales context. Give your prospects something of value before you ask for the sale. A free consultation, a sample of your product, a useful piece of information, an industry report, a trial period. These gifts create reciprocity. The prospect feels inclined to reciprocate by giving you their time, attention, and eventually their business. The ethical line: the gift must be genuine. It must have real value to the prospect. It must not be a trap. If you give a free consultation that is actually a high-pressure sales pitch, you have violated the spirit of reciprocity. The gift must be a true gift, given without expectation of return. The return will come naturally. The case study: How a legitimate company used the Trojan Horse to dominate a market. Let me tell you about a software company called Basecamp. In the early 2000s, the project management software market was crowded. There were dozens of competitors, all offering similar features at similar prices. Basecamp was struggling to stand out. Then the founders had an idea. They would create a bundle. They launched Basecamp with a simple offer: get project management, to-do lists, file sharing, messaging, and time tracking all in one package. The individual features were not new, but the bundle was revolutionary. Competitors offered these features as separate products or add-ons. Basecamp offered them all together at a single, simple price. The result was explosive growth. Customers weren't buying a project management tool. They were buying a complete solution. They were buying the peace of mind that came from having everything in one place. The bundle was so compelling that price became secondary. Basecamp charged more than some competitors, but customers didn't care. They were getting more. Basecamp understood the Trojan Horse principle. They buried the ask, buy our project management software, within a package of overwhelming value. The customer didn't see a product. They saw a solution. They didn't see a price. They saw value, the art of the irresistible offer. The Trojan Horse strategy is ultimately about creating an irresistible offer, an offer so compelling that the customer cannot say no, an offer that short-circuits rational evaluation and triggers an emotional yes. Here is the formula for the irresistible offer. 1. Identify the core product. What is the one thing you want to sell? This is your Trojan Horse. 2. Identify the value adders. What additional products, services, or benefits can you add that have high perceived value but low actual cost? These are your extras. 3. Build the bundle. Create a package that includes the core product and the value adders. Give the bundle a name: the premium package, the complete solution, the all-in-one. 4. Price the bundle. Price the bundle at a level that feels like a discount from the sum of the parts. If the individual components would cost $1,000, price the bundle at $700. The customer perceives a $300 discount. 5. Create scarcity. Limit the availability of the bundle. This offer is available only this week. Only 50 bundles available. Once they're gone, they're gone. This triggers the fear of missing out and compels action. 6. Tell the story. Present the bundle as a narrative. This isn't just a product. This is a complete transformation. You get X, Y, and Z plus these bonuses. This is everything you need to succeed. Psychological mechanism. This formula works because it overwhelms the customer's rational brain. The bundle is so packed with value that the customer stops calculating. They stop comparing. They stop hesitating. They just say yes. The ethical line. Value stacking vs. deceptive bundling. There is a fine line between value stacking and deceptive bundling. Value stacking is ethical. It is the art of creating genuine value by combining products and services in a way that benefits the customer. The customer gets more than they would have gotten individually. The salesperson gets a higher conversion rate. Everyone wins. Deceptive bundling is unethical. It is the art of hiding a bad deal within a package of worthless extras. The customer thinks they are getting value, but the extras are useless. The bundle is overpriced, and the core product is inferior. The salesperson exploits the customer's inability to evaluate the bundle rationally. The ethical line. The bundle must provide genuine value. The extras must be useful. The price must be fair. The customer must be better off buying the bundle than buying the components individually. If any of these conditions are not met, you have crossed the line. The practice. How to build your own irresistible offer. Here is a step-by-step process to build your own Trojan Horse. Step 1. Audit your current offer. What are you selling right now? Is it a single product or service? Is it a bundle? If it's a single item, you are missing the opportunity of value stacking. Step 2. Identify your value adders. What can you add to your offer that has high perceived value but low actual cost? This could be bonuses, ebooks, reports, templates, extras, free consultations, extended support, training sessions, guarantees, risk reversal, money-back guarantees, community access to a private group, membership, forum, timing, priority access, early delivery, faster support. Step 3. Build your bundle. Combine your core product with your value adders. Give the bundle a name: The complete package, the premium suite, the success kit. Step 4. Price your bundle. Price the bundle at a level that is higher than the core product alone but lower than the sum of the parts. This creates the perception of value. Step 5. Create scarcity. Add a time limit or a quantity limit to the bundle. This offer expires in 48 hours. Only 10 bundles available at this price. Step 6. Tell the story. Present the bundle as a narrative. This is everything you need to achieve X. You get a B and C plus D, E, and F as bonuses. This is the complete solution. Shadow Seller's secret. The Trojan Horse works because we want it to. There is one final insight from the Underworld that is worth understanding. The Trojan Horse works not because the customer is stupid. It works because the customer wants to believe. They want to believe they are getting a great deal. They want to believe they are making a smart decision. They want to believe that the bundle is the key to their success. The shadow seller understands this. They don't manipulate the customer. They serve the customer's desire to believe. They give the customer a story they can tell themselves, a story that justifies the purchase, that makes them feel smart, that makes them feel like they've won. Your job as a legitimate salesperson is to do the same. Give your customer a story they can believe in. Give them a bundle that makes them feel like they are getting the better end of the deal. Give them a Trojan horse that they can proudly drag inside their walls. When you do, they won't just buy from you. They will thank you for the opportunity. Action steps. 1. Audit your current offer. Is it a single product or a bundle? If it's single, start adding value adders. 2. Identify 5 value adders that cost you little but have high perceived value. These become your bonuses. 3. Create a bundle that combines your core product with the value adders. Give it a name. 4. Price the bundle at a level that feels like a discount from the sum of the parts. 5. Add scarcity. Limit the offer by time or quantity. 6. Test the offer. Present it to a small group of prospects. Measure the response. Refine and repeat. The Trojan Horse is the 4th strategy of the Underworld, and it is one of the most powerful tools in any salesperson's arsenal. It transforms a simple transaction into an irresistible opportunity. It turns "should I buy" into "how do I get this?" Chapter 6, Strategy Number 5, The Mirror of Empathy. Exploiting emotional triggers ethically. The cartel recruiter understands your desperation. The con man feels your greed. How they use empathy as a weapon. In 2015, a man named David walked into a bank in a small Midwestern town. He was well-dressed, calm, and carrying a briefcase. He approached the teller with a warm smile. "Good morning," he said. "I'm here to discuss my business account. I just moved to town and I'm looking for a bank that really understands the needs of small business owners." The teller smiled back. She loved small business owners. Her father had been one. She felt an instant connection to David. Over the next hour, David charmed his way through the bank. He spoke to the branch manager, the loan officer, and the regional vice president. He asked thoughtful questions. He listened attentively. He nodded with understanding. He shared stories of his own struggles as an entrepreneur. By the end of the day, David had been given access to the bank's internal systems, introduced to key clients, and invited to a private networking event for the bank's most valuable customers. 2 weeks later, David disappeared with $2.3 million in fraudulently obtained loans. David was a con artist. His specialty was not forging documents or hacking computers. His specialty was empathy. He could walk into any room and within minutes identify the emotional needs of the people he was manipulating. He knew that the teller needed to feel helpful. He knew that the branch manager needed to feel important. He knew that the regional vice president needed to feel like a mentor. He gave each of them exactly what they needed and took everything they had. This is the mirror of empathy. It is the ability to see the customer's emotional state, mirror it, and use it to build a connection that bypasses rational resistance. The shadow seller doesn't just understand the customer's feelings. They become the customer's feelings. They reflect the customer's desires, fears, and hopes back at them, creating a bond that feels authentic, even when it is entirely manufactured. Emotional vaccination. Identifying the core emotional state. The first step in the mirror of empathy is identification. The shadow seller must understand the customer's core emotional state, not what the customer says they feel, what they actually feel. In the underworld, this is a matter of survival. The cartel recruiter doesn't approach a potential recruit with a generic pitch. They study the recruit's life. They learn about their poverty, their desperation, their dreams of escape. They identify the emotional vacuum and position themselves as the solution. The con artist doesn't approach a mark with a generic story. They research the mark's vulnerabilities. They learn about their greed, their loneliness, their pride. They identify the emotional need and offer to fill it. The drug dealer doesn't approach a potential customer with a generic product. They observe the customer's state, their anxiety, their boredom, their pain, and offer a solution that feels tailor-made. The emotional spectrum. The shadow seller operates across a spectrum of human emotions. Here are the most common emotional triggers they exploit: emotional need, fear, safety, security, certainty. The shadow seller's response: I can protect you from what you're afraid of. Emotional need, greed, wealth, status, power. The shadow seller's response: I can give you what you've always wanted. Emotional need, loneliness, connection, belonging, love. The shadow seller's response: You are not alone. I understand you. Emotional need, pride, recognition, validation, esteem. The shadow seller's response: You are special. You deserve this. Emotional need, desperation, hope, escape, relief. The shadow seller's response: I can end your suffering. Emotional need, boredom, excitement, novelty, thrill. The shadow seller's response: I can make your life interesting. The shadow seller doesn't just identify the emotion. They become the emotion. They mirror it back to the customer, creating a sense of deep, almost mystical understanding. Legitimate application. Before any sales interaction, ask yourself, what is this customer feeling right now? Not what they are saying, not what their job title suggests. What is their emotional state? Are they anxious, excited, frustrated, hopeful, scared? Once you identify the emotion, you can speak to it directly. I understand you're frustrated. Let me show you how we solve that. This is not manipulation. It is empathy. It is seeing the customer as a human being with real feelings. The Me Too frame, creating rapport through mirroring. The shadow seller knows that people trust people who are like them. We are drawn to those who share our experiences, our struggles, our perspectives. This is the Me Too frame. The Me Too frame is the art of finding common ground and using it to build rapport. It is the ability to say, I've been there too. I understand. I'm on your side. In the underworld, this is used ruthlessly. The con artist tells a story that mirrors the mark's own life. I grew up poor too. I struggled too. I know what it's like to want more. The drug dealer shares a struggle. I had a rough week too. This is what I do to cope. The smuggler expresses solidarity. I know the system is rigged against us. I'm just trying to get by like you. Psychological mechanism. This is called the similarity attraction effect. When we perceive someone as similar to us, we feel more comfortable with them. We trust them more. We are more likely to say yes to their requests. The shadow seller exploits this by finding or fabricating similarities with the customer. Legitimate application. The Me Too frame can be used ethically in almost any sales context. Find genuine common ground with your prospect. Have you faced similar challenges? Have you worked in the same industry? Do you share a hobby? Did you attend the same school? Do you have similar values? When you find common ground, acknowledge it. I completely understand. I faced that same challenge when I was in your position. This creates a bond that makes the prospect more receptive to your message. Strategic validation, making the customer feel understood. The most powerful form of empathy is validation. It is the act of acknowledging the customer's feelings without judgment. It is saying, your feelings make sense. Anyone in your position would feel the same way. The shadow seller validates relentlessly. They don't argue with the customer's feelings. They don't dismiss them. They don't tell the customer they are wrong. They simply acknowledge and validate. Of course, you're frustrated. Anyone would be. Your fear is completely understandable. This is a big decision. Can see why you would feel that way. It makes perfect sense. Psychological mechanism. Validation reduces defensiveness. When we feel validated, we stop fighting. We lower our guard. We become more open to influence. The shadow seller uses validation to disarm the customer's objections before they even form. Legitimate application. When a customer expresses a concern, validate it before you respond. Don't jump to the solution. Don't dismiss the concern. Don't argue, just validate. I understand why you're worried about that. It's a legitimate concern. Then and only then can you offer a solution. The validation creates an opening. The solution fills it. A study, The Recruiter Who Understood Desperation. Let me tell you about a woman I'll call Mitchell. Mitchell was a recruiter for a legitimate company, a healthcare staffing firm that placed nurses in hospitals across the country. She was good at her job, but she was struggling to hit her numbers. The market was competitive. Nurses were in high demand. She was losing candidates to other firms. Then Mitchell had an epiphany. She stopped selling the job. She started selling the solution to desperation. Mitchell realized that the nurses she was recruiting were not just looking for a job, they were looking for an escape. Many of them were overworked, underpaid, and burned out. They were desperate for relief. They were desperate for a change. They were desperate for hope, so Mitchell changed her approach. Instead of saying, "We have a position available," she started saying, "I understand how exhausting your current situation must be. I've been there too. Let me show you how we can help you find relief." She mirrored their desperation. She validated their frustration. She positioned herself as the solution to their emotional crisis. Within 6 months, Mitchell was the top recruiter in her company. She had doubled her placements. She hadn't changed the jobs she was offering. She had changed the emotional connection she was building. Mitchell understood the mirror of empathy. She didn't exploit her candidates' desperation. She served it. She gave them what they needed: hope, relief, and a path forward. The dark side. When empathy becomes manipulation, there is a dark side to empathy. When it is used to exploit, it becomes manipulation. The con artist's empathy is a mask. They don't actually care about the mark's feelings. They care about what those feelings can get them. They use empathy as a tool to lower the mark's defenses and take advantage of them. The cartel recruiter's empathy is a trap. They don't actually want to help the recruit. They want to use the recruit's desperation to lure them into a life of crime. The shadow seller who crosses the line from empathy to manipulation is a predator. They are not serving the customer. They are exploiting them, the ethical line. Your empathy must be genuine. You must actually care about the customer's well-being. You must use your understanding of their emotions to serve them, not to exploit them. If you are mirroring someone's pain to sell them something they don't need, you have crossed the line. If you are validating someone's fear to push them into a bad decision, you have crossed the line. If you are using your emotional connection to manipulate, you are no better than the con artist. The practice. How to use empathy ethically. Here is a 4-step practice to use the mirror of empathy ethically. Step 1. The emotional audit. Before every sales interaction, ask yourself, what is this customer feeling right now? Not what they are saying, not what their job title suggests. What is their emotional state? Are they anxious, excited, frustrated, hopeful, scared? Write down your assessment. Step 2. The validation pause. When the customer expresses a concern, pause. Validate the concern before you respond. I understand why you would feel that way. Your concern makes perfect sense. Anyone in your position would feel the same. This validation creates an opening for your solution. Step 3. The Me Too connection. Find genuine common ground with the customer. Have you faced similar challenges? Do you share a similar background? Do you have similar values? When you find common ground, acknowledge it. I completely understand. I faced that same challenge myself. Step 4. The empathy service alignment. After every sales interaction, ask yourself, did I use my empathy to serve the customer or to exploit them? Did I genuinely care about their well-being? Did I help them make a good decision? If the answer is no, adjust your approach. The shadow seller's secret. Empathy is the ultimate selling tool. There is one final insight from the underworld that is worth understanding. The shadow seller knows that empathy is the ultimate selling tool, not because it manipulates people, but because it connects with people. When you truly understand a customer's emotional state, you can speak directly to their deepest needs. You can become the solution they have been searching for. The shadow seller also knows that empathy is a skill. It can be learned. It can be practiced. It can be perfected. The more you understand the human emotional spectrum, the more effective you will be at selling. Your job as a legitimate salesperson is to become a master of empathy, to understand your customers so deeply that you can anticipate their needs before they articulate them, to validate their feelings so completely that they feel safe and understood, to connect with them so authentically that they trust you implicitly. When you do, you won't just sell, you will serve. And when you serve, you will be unstoppable. Action steps 1. Practice emotional identification. On your next 3 sales calls, identify the customer's core emotional state before you respond. Write it down. Compare your assessment with the outcome 2. Practice validation. On your next call, validate every concern before you respond. Don't dismiss, don't argue, just validate. I understand why you would feel that way. 3. Find common ground. Before your next call, research your prospect. Find at least one point of genuine common ground. Use it in the conversation. 4. Audit your empathy. After every interaction, ask yourself, did I serve or exploit? Did I care or manipulate? Adjust accordingly. 5. Learn the emotional spectrum. Study the emotions that drive your customers. Fear, greed, loneliness, pride, desperation, boredom. Understand how each emotion manifests in your industry. Learn to identify and speak to each one. The mirror of empathy is the 5th strategy of the Underworld, and it is the bridge between connection and conversion. Without empathy, the Trojan Horse is just a bundle. Without empathy, the trusted fixer is just a vendor. Empathy is what transforms a transaction into a relationship. It is what turns a customer into a champion. Chapter 7. Strategy number 6. The submarine close, maneuvering under the radar. How illegal sales happen in plain sight through ambiguity and reframing. In 2016, a man named Alexander walked into a high-end art gallery in Manhattan. He was dressed impeccably. He spoke with the cultured accent of a European aristocrat. He expressed interest in a $500,000 painting by a contemporary master. The gallery owner, a veteran of the art world, was immediately suspicious. Alexander was too smooth, too polished, too eager. She asked him about his collection. He answered flawlessly. She asked him about his favorite artists. He named obscure names. She asked him about his provenance, the history of his previous acquisitions. He offered a story that was almost too perfect. But here's the thing, Alexander wasn't a fraud. He was a genuine collector. He had the money. He had the taste. He had the provenance. Everything he said was true. The gallery owner was so suspicious of his perfection that she almost lost the sale. She had been trained to spot the too good to be true. She had been burned before. Her defenses were so high that she nearly rejected a legitimate buyer. Alexander sensed her hesitation. He didn't push. He didn't defend. He didn't try to convince her. Instead, he did something unexpected. He stepped back. "Perhaps I'm being too forward," he said. "Let me give you some space. I understand that trust takes time. I'll leave my card. When you're ready to talk further, please call me." He left. The gallery owner was stunned. She called him the next day. The sale closed within a week. This is the submarine close. It is the art of maneuvering under the customer's defensive radar. It is the ability to close a deal without the customer ever feeling like they are being closed. It is the sales equivalent of a submarine surfacing. Silent, sudden, and devastatingly effective. Plausible deniability. The art of ambiguity. In the underworld, the submarine close is a necessity. Illegal transactions cannot be overt. The buyer and seller must maintain plausible deniability. They must be able to say, if questioned, "I didn't know what I was buying," or "I didn't know it was illegal," or "I was just having a conversation." This creates a fascinating dynamic. The sale must happen without anyone explicitly acknowledging that a sale is happening. The shadow seller has perfected the art of ambiguity. They use language that is suggestive but not explicit. They speak in code. They allow the customer to fill in the gaps with their own assumptions. They create a space where the customer can convince themselves to buy. Examples from the underworld: the counterfeit watch seller. This is a very special timepiece. It has the same movement as the Swiss originals. Some people say you can't tell the difference unless you look very closely. The customer hears, "This is a fake Rolex that looks real." The drug dealer: "I have a product that will help you relax after a long week. It's very popular with people who need to unwind." The customer hears, "I have marijuana." The smuggler: "I know a route that is very quiet. Not many people use it. It's safe, but you need to be discreet." The customer hears, I can get your goods across the border without inspection. In each case, the shadow seller has made the sale without explicitly stating the terms. The customer has the information they need, but the seller has plausible deniability. The customer is complicit in the ambiguity, the psychological mechanism. This is called the self-generated persuasion effect. When customers fill in the gaps themselves, they become more committed to the decision. They have convinced themselves, which is far more powerful than being convinced by someone else. Legitimate application. You don't need to be ambiguous about illegal things, but you do need to let your customer convince themselves. Instead of telling them all the reasons to buy, guide them to discover those reasons on their own. Ask questions that lead them to their own conclusions. What would it mean for your business if you could achieve X? How would your life change if you had Y? What's the cost of not solving this problem? When the customer articulates the value themselves, they are far more likely to act. The let's test it approach, lowering the barrier to entry. The submarine close relies on a simple insight. People don't like to make big decisions. Big decisions are stressful. Big decisions trigger analysis paralysis. Big decisions invite second guessing, but small decisions are easy. The shadow seller knows this. So they break the sale down into a series of small, unthreatening decisions. Each decision is easy to make. Each decision lowers the customer's defenses. Each decision makes the next decision easier. This is the let's test it approach, the sequence. 1. The first small decision, can I show you something? Easy yes. 2. The second small decision, would you like to see how it works? Easy yes. 3. The third small decision, what would it take for you to consider this? Easy answer. 4. The fourth small decision, would you be open to a trial? Easy yes. 5. The fifth small decision, can we set up the trial for next week? Easy yes. 6. The sixth small decision, how would you like to pay? Suddenly, the sale has happened without the customer ever feeling like they were making a big decision. The psychological mechanism, this is called the foot-in-the-door technique. When we agree to a small request, we become more likely to agree to a larger request. Our self-image shifts. We see ourselves as someone who says yes. We become committed to the trajectory. Legitimate application. Break your sales process into small, incremental steps. Don't ask for the big commitment all at once. Ask for small commitments that build momentum. Each small yes makes the final yes inevitable. The permission close. Asking for unthreatening decisions. The permission close is the art of asking the customer for permission to move forward in a way that feels collaborative rather than confrontational. In the underworld, the permission close is used constantly. Would it be okay if I showed you something? Mind if I ask you a question? Do you have a moment? Each question is a small ask that lowers the customer's guard. The permission close sequence. 1. Permission to speak. Do you mind if I share something with you? The customer says yes, giving you permission to engage. 2. Permission to ask. Would it be okay if I asked you a few questions? The customer says yes, giving you permission to explore. 3. Permission to share. I have an idea that might help you, may I share it? The customer says yes, giving you permission to present. 4. Permission to suggest. I have a suggestion, would it be okay if I shared it? The customer says yes, giving you permission to propose. 5. Permission to proceed. I think I can help you. Would you be open to taking the next step? Customer says yes and the sale is closed. Each step is collaborative. Each step asks for permission. Each step makes the customer feel in control. And each step moves the customer closer to the final decision without triggering their defenses. Legitimate application. Use permission closes throughout your sales process. Ask for permission before you share. Ask for permission before you ask a question. Ask for permission before you propose a solution. This makes the customer feel respected and in control. It lowers their defenses and builds trust. The case study. The consultant who closed without closing. Let me tell you about a management consultant named Laura. Laura worked with Fortune 500 companies. Her engagements were expensive, often $100,000 or more. She was brilliant at what she did, but she struggled with closing. She felt pushy. She felt salesy. She felt like she was begging. Then Laura discovered the submarine close. She stopped trying to close. Instead, she started guiding. She would enter a discovery conversation with a prospect and ask a series of questions that led the prospect to their own conclusions. Tell me about your biggest challenge right now. What have you tried so far? What hasn't worked? What would success look like? What's the cost of not solving this problem? Who else would benefit from a solution? What would you need to make a decision? By the end of the conversation, Laura had not made a single ask. But the prospect had articulated their problem, identified the consequences of inaction, and spelled out the criteria for a solution. The prospect had effectively closed themselves. At the end of the call, Laura would say, "It sounds like you have a clear picture of what you need. I think I can help. Would you like to discuss how we might work together?" The sale was already made. The proposal was just a formality. Laura understood the submarine close. She didn't push. She guided. She didn't sell. She helped. And in doing so, she made the sale inevitable. The dark side. Manipulation through ambiguity. There is a dark side to the submarine close. When ambiguity is used to hide the truth, it becomes manipulation. The shadow seller who uses ambiguous language to mislead the customer is a predator. They are not helping the customer make a decision. They are tricking them into one. The ethical line. Your ambiguity must be used to clarify, not to confuse. Your small asks must lead to good decisions, not bad ones. Your permission closes must be genuine, not performative. If you are using ambiguity to hide a flaw in your product, you have crossed the line. If you are using small asks to manipulate the customer into a bad decision, you have crossed the line. If you are asking permission to push a product the customer doesn't need, you have crossed the line. The practice. How to master the submarine close. Here is a 4-step practice to master the submarine close. Step 1. The discovery sequence. Create a list of questions that guide the customer to their own conclusions. Practice asking these questions in a conversational, non-pressured way. The goal is to help the customer articulate their own needs and the consequences of inaction. Step 2. The permission habit. Before every ask for permission. May I share something? Would it be okay if I asked a question? Would you be open to a suggestion? Make this a habit. It builds trust and lowers defenses. Step 3. The incremental commitment. Break your sales process into small, incremental steps. Ask for small commitments that build toward the final decision. Each small yes makes the big yes easier. Step 4. The collaborative frame. Position yourself as a collaborator, not a salesperson. Let's work together to find the best solution for you. This shifts the frame from adversarial to collaborative. The customer stops resisting and starts participating. The shadow seller's secret. The best close is no close at all. There is one final insight from the underworld that is worth understanding. The shadow seller knows that the best close is no close at all. The best close is when the customer closes themselves. When the customer has been guided to their own conclusion, when they have articulated their own needs, when they have convinced themselves of the value. The sale is inevitable. The salesperson doesn't need to close. The customer closes for them. The shadow seller also knows that the submarine close requires patience. You cannot rush. You cannot push. You must let the customer arrive at the decision in their own time, in their own way. The submarine surfaces when the time is right, not before, not after. Your job as a legitimate salesperson is to become a guide, not a pusher. To lead the customer to their own conclusion. To create a space where the sale happens naturally, organically, inevitably. When you do, you won't need to close. The sale will close itself. Action steps. 1. Create your discovery sequence. Write down 10 questions that guide the customer to their own conclusions. Practice asking them in a conversational way. 2. Practice permission closes. For 1 week, ask for permission before every ask. May I share something? Would it be okay if I asked a question? Make it a habit. 3. Break your sales process into small steps. Identify 5-7 small commitments that lead to the final decision. Make each step easy to say yes to. 4. Audit your ambiguity. Is your language clear or confusing? Are you hiding something or clarifying something? Adjust your communication to be transparent while still guiding the customer. 5. Patience practice. On your next 3 sales calls, don't push. Don't rush. Let the customer arrive at their own conclusion. Notice how the dynamic changes. The submarine close is the 6th strategy of the underworld, and it is the art of closing without closing. It is the ability to guide the customer to their own decision, making the sale feel collaborative rather than confrontational. It transforms the sales process from a battle into a partnership. Chapter 8, Strategy Number 7, The Painted Door, Urgency and the Time-Bound Offer, Creating a False Crisis to Force a Decision. The master manipulator's clock in the 1990s, a man named Victor Lustig pulled off one of the most audacious cons in history. He sold the Eiffel Tower, not once but twice. Lustig's scheme was brilliant in its simplicity. He posed as a government official and approached a group of scrap metal dealers. He told them that the Eiffel Tower was too expensive to maintain and was being sold for scrap. He invited them to submit bids, but here was the genius of the con. Lustig created a deadline. He told the dealers that the decision had to be made quickly. The government needed to act fast. The bids had to be submitted within days. The deadline created urgency. The urgency created panic. The panic short-circuited rational decision-making. One dealer, so desperate to win the bid, paid Lustig a massive bribe to secure the deal. Lustig took the money and fled. Lustig understood a fundamental truth about human psychology. People will act to avoid a loss more eagerly than they will act to gain a benefit. This is called loss aversion, and it is the engine of the painted door strategy. The painted door is the art of creating a time-bound offer that forces a decision. It is the ability to make the customer feel that if they don't act now, they will lose something valuable. It is the master manipulator's clock, ticking down to a decision that feels urgent, necessary, and unavoidable. The last chance scarcity, the psychology of loss aversion. Let's conduct a simple experiment. I offer you two choices. Choice A, I give you $100 for free. Choice B, you have a 50% chance of winning $200 and a 50% chance of winning $0. Most people choose choice A. The guaranteed $100 feels safer. The potential loss of $100 by not choosing A feels more painful than the potential gain of $200. Now, let's flip the experiment. Choice C. You lose $100 for sure. Choice D. You have a 50% chance of losing $200 and a 50% chance of losing $0. Most people choose choice D. They would rather gamble on losing nothing than accept a sure loss of $100. Psychological mechanism. This is loss aversion. Losses hurt twice as much as gains feel good. We will take greater risks to avoid a loss than we will to achieve a gain. This is why urgency works. The fear of losing an opportunity is more powerful than the desire to gain a benefit. The shadow seller exploits loss aversion ruthlessly. They frame their offer not as a gain but as a potential loss. If you don't act now, you'll miss out. This opportunity won't come again. Once it's gone, it's gone. Psychological mechanism. Loss aversion is deeply wired into the human brain. It is not a rational calculation. It is an emotional response. The amygdala, the brain's fear center, lights up when we perceive a potential loss. This triggers a fight-or-flight response that overrides rational decision-making. The customer stops thinking and starts acting. The price increase narrative, creating a temporal anchor. The shadow seller knows that urgency must be anchored in something real or plausible. They cannot simply say, "Buy now because I said so." They need a narrative that makes the urgency feel legitimate. The price increase narrative is one of the most effective anchors. The narrative. Our prices are going up next month. We've been holding them steady for 2 years, but our costs have increased. If you buy now, you lock in the current price. If you wait, you'll pay more. This narrative works because it is plausible. Prices do increase. Costs do rise. The customer can see the logic. The urgency feels legitimate. The psychological mechanism. This is called temporal anchoring. The customer's brain creates a mental anchor at the current price. The future price becomes a reference point. The customer perceives the current price as a discount, even if it has always been the price. The potential loss of the discount triggers loss aversion and compels action. Legitimate application. The price increase narrative can be used ethically if the price increase is genuine. If you are planning to raise your prices, tell your customers. Give them a deadline to lock in the current rate. If you are not planning to raise your prices, don't pretend you are. That is a lie, and lies destroy trust. The inventory is low trap, manufacturing competition. The shadow seller knows that scarcity is not just about time, it is also about quantity. If the customer believes there is limited supply, they will act faster. The narrative: we only have a few units left. Once they're gone, they're gone. I can't promise we'll get more. This narrative works because it creates competition. The customer is not just deciding whether to buy, they are competing with other potential buyers. The fear of losing the opportunity to someone else is a powerful motivator, the psychological mechanism. This is called the scarcity principle. When something is perceived as scarce, its value increases. We want what is hard to get. We fear missing out on what is limited. Scarcity triggers a sense of urgency that overrides rational evaluation. Legitimate application. The inventory is low narrative can be used ethically if the inventory is genuinely low. If you have limited stock, say so. If you have limited capacity, say so. If you have limited time, say so, but do not manufacture scarcity. Do not say only 10 left if you have 1,000 in the warehouse. Do not say last chance if the offer will be extended. The truth is powerful enough. Lies are not worth the cost. The case study, the travel website that mastered urgency. Let me tell you about a travel website that transformed its conversion rate through urgency. The website sold vacation packages. They had a problem. People would browse, find a package they liked, and leave. They would think about it. They would discuss it with their spouse. They would check their calendar. They would never come back. The company hired a conversion optimization expert. The expert made a simple change. They added a countdown timer to the booking page. Book now. This price expires in 24 hours. 7 other people are viewing this package right now. Result? Conversions increased by 47%. The countdown timer created urgency. The 7 other people line created competition. Together, they triggered loss aversion and scarcity. The customer stopped thinking and started booking. The expert understood the painted door strategy. They didn't manipulate, they illuminated. The price was about to expire. Other people were viewing the package. The urgency was real. The expert just made it visible. The lesson: urgency is not always visible to the customer. You need to shine a light on it. You need to make the ticking clock visible. You need to show the customer that the opportunity is slipping away. The dark side: manipulation through manufactured urgency. There is a dark side to the painted door strategy. When urgency is manufactured, it becomes manipulation. The shadow seller who creates a false crisis is not serving the customer, they are exploiting them. They are using the customer's fear of loss to push them into a bad decision. They are not helping, they are hurting. The ethical line: your urgency must be real. Your scarcity must be genuine. Your deadline must be legitimate. If you are creating urgency to manipulate the customer, you have crossed the line. If you are using scarcity to pressure the customer, you have crossed the line. If you are lying about the deadline, you have crossed the line. The cost of crossing the line is trust. Once the customer discovers they were manipulated, they will never trust you again. They will tell others. Your reputation will be damaged. The short-term gain is not worth the long-term loss. The practice: how to create urgency ethically. Here is a 4-step practice to create urgency ethically. Step 1. Identify genuine scarcity. Is there a genuine limit to what you can offer? Limited inventory, limited capacity, limited time. Identify it. This is your anchor for urgency. Step 2. Communicate clearly. Tell the customer about the scarcity. Be transparent. Be specific. We have 50 units available at this price. Our team can only take on 3 new clients this month. The early bird discount expires on Friday. Step 3. Show the consequence. Help the customer understand the consequence of delay. If you wait, the price will increase. If you wait, we may not have availability. If you wait, you will lose the opportunity to lock in this rate. Step 4. Make the deadline visible. Don't just mention the deadline, make it visible. Use a countdown timer. Send a reminder email. Put the expiration date in bold. Make the urgency impossible to ignore. The shadow seller's secret: urgency is the mother of action. There is one final insight from the underworld that is worth understanding. The shadow seller knows that without urgency there is no action. People procrastinate, people hesitate, people delay. Urgency is what breaks the inertia. It is what transforms intention into action. The shadow seller also knows that urgency must be anchored in truth. The best urgency is real urgency. The best deadline is a real deadline. The best scarcity is real scarcity. When urgency is real, the customer feels respected. When urgency is manufactured, the customer feels manipulated. Your job as a legitimate salesperson is to find the genuine urgency in your offer and make it visible. If your product genuinely solves a problem, there is genuine urgency in solving that problem. If your service genuinely saves time or money, there is genuine urgency in acting now. If your offer genuinely has a limit, there is genuine urgency in acting before it expires. Find the real urgency. Shine a light on it. Let the customer see the ticking clock. When they see it, they will act. Action steps 1. Audit your offer. What is the genuine scarcity? Limited time, limited quantity, limited capacity. Identify it. 2. Create your deadline. If you don't have a deadline, create one. This offer expires in 7 days. We only have 10 spots available. The price increases next month. 3. Make it visible. Put the deadline in your emails, on your website, in your proposals. Use countdown timers. Send reminder emails. Make the urgency impossible to ignore. 4. Communicate the consequence. Help the customer understand what they will lose if they don't act. If you wait, you'll pay more. If you wait, you might miss out. If you wait, you'll lose the opportunity. 5. Stay honest. Never manufacture urgency. Never create a false deadline. Never lie about scarcity. The truth is powerful enough. The painted door is the 7th strategy of the underworld, and it is the engine of action. Without urgency, the sale stalls. Without urgency, the customer hesitates. Without urgency, the deal dies. Urgency is what breaks the inertia and compels the customer to act. Chapter 9. Strategy number 8. The art of the pivot. Reframing objections as confirmations. How a smuggler turns "that's too expensive" into "you must not want it bad enough." In 1971, a young psychologist named Stanley Milgram conducted an experiment that would become one of the most controversial in the history of psychology. He wanted to understand how ordinary people could commit atrocities under authority. He asked participants to administer electric shocks to a learner, actually an actor, whenever they answered a question incorrectly. The shocks increased in intensity. The actor screamed in pain. The participants were visibly distressed. Yet when the experimenter said, "The experiment requires that you continue," the majority of participants continued. They continued even when they believed they were causing severe harm. Milgram's experiment revealed something profound about human nature. When we are told that our compliance is necessary, we comply. We override our own judgment in the face of perceived authority. The shadow seller understands this principle intimately. But they don't rely on authority alone. They rely on something more powerful, the reframe. They take the customer's objection, acknowledge it, and then pivot, transforming the objection into a confirmation of the very thing the customer is resisting. This is the art of the pivot. It is the ability to take no and turn it into yes without the customer ever feeling like they were pressured. It is the sales equivalent of a judo master using the opponent's momentum to throw them off balance, the reframe, changing the meaning of an objection. The shadow seller knows that an objection is not a rejection. It is a request for more information. It is a signal of interest. It is an invitation to deepen the conversation. The reframe formula. 1. Acknowledge, validate the objection. I understand why you would say that. Agree, find something to agree with. That's a fair point. 3. Reframe, change the meaning. But let me show you why that concern actually proves my point. 4. Confirm, ask for agreement. Does that make sense? Examples from the Underworld. Objection, I'm not sure I can trust you. Response, oh, you can trust me, I'm honest. Defensive, lame. Pivot. Response, I completely understand why you'd be cautious. In your position, I'd feel the same way. In fact, that's exactly why I'm so confident you'll be happy with this. The people who are the most skeptical at first are the ones who become our most loyal customers. They've done their due diligence. They know they made the right choice. Would you like to hear what they said? Acknowledges the objection, agrees with it, reframes it as a sign of intelligence, and uses it as a bridge to social proof. Objection, I need to think about it. Response, of course, take your time. Gives away all leverage. Pivot response. I completely understand. A decision like this deserves careful thought. In fact, I'd be worried if you didn't want to think about it. But I've noticed that when people say they want to think about it, they usually have a question they haven't asked yet. Can I ask, what's the real concern here? Acknowledges, agrees, reframes thinking as a hidden question and opens the door to the real objection. Objection. That's too expensive. Response. We can work on the price. Concedes value. Pivot response. I understand why you'd say that. It's a significant investment, but I have to ask, compared to what? Compared to the cost of not solving this problem. Compared to the cost of the alternative. When you look at the value we're providing, I think you'll see that the price is actually a bargain. Let me show you. Acknowledges, agrees, reframes expensive as investment, and compares it to the cost of inaction. The psychological mechanism, this is called reframing. It is the process of changing the meaning of a statement by putting it in a new context. The customer's objection is not wrong, it is just incomplete. The pivot fills in the missing context, transforming the objection into a reason to buy. The "that's a great question" technique, buying time while flattering. The shadow seller knows that the best response to a tough objection is not to answer it immediately. It is to buy time while flattering the customer. The technique. When the customer asks a difficult question or raises a challenging objection, the shadow seller responds with, "That's a great question." This does two things. One, it buys time. While the customer is feeling flattered, the shadow seller has a moment to think. They don't have to answer immediately. They can pause, gather their thoughts, and craft the perfect response too. It flatters the customer. The customer feels smart. They feel validated. They feel like their question is important. This makes them more receptive to the answer. Example: customer. How do I know this will actually work? Shadow seller. That's a great question, and it's one of the most important questions you can ask. Let me explain how we've helped other customers in your exact situation. Psychological mechanism. This is called positive reinforcement. When we praise someone's question, we make them feel valued. They become more open to our response because they feel respected. The flattery lowers their defenses and makes them more receptive. The permission to object. Asking for objections to open the dialogue. The shadow seller doesn't wait for objections to appear. They invite them. The technique. Before the customer has a chance to object, the shadow seller says, "I'm sure you have some concerns." What are they? Let's address them now. This does two things. One, it removes the pressure. The customer doesn't have to hold back their objections. They can voice them freely. This reduces the tension and makes the conversation more collaborative too. It gives the shadow seller control. Once the objections are on the table, the shadow seller can address them one by one. The customer has no hidden objections lurking beneath the surface. Everything is out in the open. Example: shadow seller. Before we go any further, I'm sure you have some questions or concerns. What's on your mind? Let's talk about it. Customer. Well, I'm a little worried about the implementation timeline. Seller. That's a fair concern. Let me walk you through how we handle implementation. Psychological mechanism. This is called the inoculation effect. When you invite objections, you remove their power. They become topics of discussion rather than barriers to agreement. The customer feels heard and the shadow seller gains the opportunity to address every concern. The case study. The car salesman who never argued. Let me tell you about a car salesman named Eddie. Eddie worked at a dealership in a competitive market. He was not the most charismatic salesman. He was not the most aggressive. He was not the most knowledgeable, but he was the most successful. Year after year, he outsold everyone else on the lot. What was Eddie's secret? He never argued. While other salesmen would push back on objections, Eddie would lean in. When a customer said, "The price is too high," Eddie would say, "You're right, it is a lot of money. Let's look at the value you're getting for that price." When a customer said, "I'm not sure about this color," Eddie would say, "I completely understand. Color is a personal choice. Let's look at some other options." When a customer said, "I need to think about it," Eddie would say, "That's a smart approach. Let's go through everything one more time so you have all the information." Eddie understood the art of the pivot. He didn't fight objections, he welcomed them. He knew that objections were not obstacles, they were opportunities to build trust. Every objection was a chance to demonstrate his expertise, his honesty, and his commitment to the customer. The result: Eddie sold more cars than anyone else. Not because he was a better salesman, but because he was a better listener. He pivoted instead of pushed, and his customers loved him for it. The lesson: the art of the pivot is not about winning arguments, it is about building bridges. When you pivot, you are not defeating the customer, you are joining them. You are saying, "I hear you, I understand you, and let's find a solution together." That collaboration is far more powerful than any argument. The dark side: manipulation through reframing. There is a dark side to the art of the pivot. When reframing is used to hide the truth, it becomes manipulation. The shadow seller who reframes a legitimate concern as a trivial one is not serving the customer. They are deceiving them. They are using the pivot to avoid addressing a real problem. They are using the reframe to push the customer into a bad decision. The ethical line: your pivot must be honest. Your reframe must be truthful. You must not use the art of the pivot to avoid legitimate concerns. If the customer has a valid objection, address it honestly. If you cannot address it, acknowledge it. Do not twist the truth to make a sale. The cost of losing trust is far greater than the gain of a single transaction. The practice: how to master the art of the pivot. Here is a 4-step practice to master the art of the pivot. Step 1. The objection audit. Identify the top 5 objections you hear most frequently. Write them down. For each objection, write a pivot response that acknowledges, agrees, reframes, and confirms. Step 2. The flattery pause. When a customer raises a tough objection, pause. Say, "That's a great question." Use the pause to gather your thoughts. Then respond with your pivot. Step 3. The objection invitation. Before the customer has a chance to raise objections, invite them. "I'm sure you have some concerns. What's on your mind?" Address each objection openly and honestly. Step 4. The truth check. After every pivot, ask yourself, was I honest? Did I address the real concern? Did I serve the customer or manipulate them? If you cross the line, adjust your approach. The shadow seller's secret: objections are just unasked questions. There is one final insight from the underworld that is worth understanding. The shadow seller knows that objections are not arguments. They are questions the customer hasn't fully articulated. The customer is not saying, "I don't want to buy." They are saying, "I have a concern, I have a fear, I have a doubt. Can you help me resolve it?" The art of the pivot is the art of answering those unasked questions. It is the ability to hear the fear behind the objection and address it. It is the ability to see the doubt and dispel it. It is the ability to take the customer's resistance and transform it into agreement. Your job as a legitimate salesperson is to be the question answerer, to hear the unasked questions and respond to them, to find the fear and calm it, to see the doubt and reassure it. When you do, the objection disappears, and the sale follows. Action steps: 1. Create your objection pivot list. Write down the top 5 objections you hear. For each, write a pivot response. Practice them until they feel natural. 2. Practice the flattery pause. On your next 5 calls, when a customer raises an objection, say, "That's a great question." Pause, then respond. Notice how the dynamic changes. 3. Invite objections. On your next call, before the customer has a chance to object, say, "I'm sure you have some concerns. Let's address them now." Then handle each concern openly. 4. Audit your pivots. After every call, review your pivots. Were they honest? Did you address the real concern? Did you serve the customer or manipulate them? Adjust accordingly. 5. Listen for the unasked question. When a customer objects, ask yourself, what is the real fear here? What is the unasked question? Address that, not the surface objection. The art of the pivot is the 8th strategy of the underworld, and it is the bridge between resistance and agreement. Without the pivot, objections become barriers. With the pivot, objections become foundations. It transforms no into yes without the customer ever feeling pressured. Chapter 10. Strategy number 9. The exit strategy: selling the next sale. How the underworld prioritizes the relationship after the cash changes hands. In the late 1990s, a man named Dmitry operated a smuggling operation that moved goods across the borders of Eastern Europe. He was good at his job. His shipments rarely got caught. His customers were satisfied. But Dmitry wasn't satisfied. He wanted more. He noticed something interesting. His customers would come to him for one shipment, then disappear. They would find another smuggler for the next job. They would shop around for better prices. They would treat him as a commodity. Dmitri decided to change his approach. He stopped focusing on the transaction and started focusing on the relationship. He began to do things that other smugglers didn't do. He called his customers after the shipment arrived to make sure everything was okay. He offered to store goods for customers who needed temporary holding. He gave small discounts to repeat customers. He introduced customers to each other, creating a network of trusted contacts. He asked for referrals and rewarded them. Within 2 years, Dmitri's business had tripled. His customers stopped shopping around. They didn't just trust him, they depended on him. He had become indispensable. He had mastered the exit strategy. The exit strategy is the art of prioritizing the relationship after the sale. It is the understanding that the transaction is not the end of the process. It is the beginning. It is the recognition that the real profit comes not from the first sale, but from the lifetime value of the customer, post-sale service. Why the Underworld offers refunds. In the legitimate world, post-sale service is a nicety. In the Underworld, it is a necessity. The shadow seller knows that without contracts, guarantees, or legal recourse, trust is the only currency that matters. And trust is built not in the sale but in the aftermath. When the product is delivered, when the service is rendered, when the transaction is complete, that is when trust is truly tested. The Underworld playbook, the follow-up call. The shadow seller calls after the sale to check in. Is everything okay? Are you satisfied? Is there anything else I can do? This simple gesture creates a bond that transcends the transaction, the refund. The shadow seller offers a refund or a replacement not out of kindness but out of self-interest. They know that a satisfied customer returns. A dissatisfied customer tells others. The refund is an investment in the relationship, the bonus. The shadow seller adds a small extra, a free sample, a discount on the next purchase, a piece of useful information. This is not a loss. It is a deposit in the relational capital account, the problem solver. When something goes wrong, the shadow seller fixes it. They don't make excuses. They don't blame the customer. They just solve the problem. This is the fastest way to build trust, the psychological mechanism. This is called the service recovery paradox. When a customer experiences a problem and it is resolved quickly and effectively, their loyalty actually increases. They become more loyal than customers who never had a problem. The resolution creates a bond that the initial sale could not. Legitimate application. Post-sale service is not an expense. It is an investment. Every follow-up call, every check-in, every problem solved is a deposit in the relational capital account. The return on that investment is a customer who buys again, refers others, and stays loyal for life. The follow-up call, solidifying the bond. The follow-up call is the most powerful post-sale tool. It is simple, inexpensive, and incredibly effective. The follow-up formula: 1. Timing. Call within 48 hours of the sale. The customer is still in the post-purchase glow. They are still excited about their decision. The follow-up reinforces that excitement. 2. Tone. Make it a genuine check-in, not a sales pitch. I just wanted to make sure everything is going well. Is there anything you need? Is there anything I can do? 3. Content. Ask questions. Are you satisfied with the product? Is it meeting your expectations? Is there anything we could have done better? This shows the customer that you care about their experience, not just their money. 4. Next step. End with an invitation. If you ever need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. I'm here for you. This keeps the door open for future conversations. The psychological mechanism. This is called the consistency principle. When a customer has made a commitment, they want to be consistent with that commitment. The follow-up call reinforces the customer's decision, making them more likely to buy again in the future. Legitimate application. Make the follow-up call a non-negotiable part of your sales process. Set a reminder. Schedule it in your calendar. Do it every time. The follow-up call is not just good customer service. It is the foundation of long-term loyalty. The referral ask. The final strategy. The referral ask is the most powerful sales tool in existence. It is the ultimate test of the relationship. If the customer trusts you, they will refer. If they don't, they won't. The referral ask is the final strategy of the underworld and the most lucrative. The underworld approach, the timing. The shadow seller asks for a referral immediately after a successful transaction. The customer is happy. The customer is grateful. The customer is in the right frame of mind to say yes. The framing. The shadow seller frames the referral ask as an act of generosity, not a favor. I'm really proud of the work we've done together. I'd love to help more people like you. Who do you know who might benefit from what we do? The specificity. The shadow seller is specific. Do you know anyone in your industry who is struggling with X? Do you know anyone who might need our services? Specific questions get specific answers. The reward. The shadow seller rewards the referral. A discount. A small gift. A favor. This creates a cycle of reciprocity that generates endless referrals. The psychological mechanism. This is called the network effect. When you have a satisfied customer, they are connected to a network of other potential customers. Each referral opens a new network. The referrals compound, creating exponential growth. Legitimate application. The referral ask must be a non-negotiable part of your sales process. After every successful transaction, ask for a referral. Don't be shy, don't be afraid. The worst they can say is no. The best they can say is yes, and that yes can change your business. The case study. The real estate agent who never stopped selling. Let me tell you about a real estate agent named Margaret. Margaret had been in the business for over 20 years. She had a steady stream of clients, but she wanted more. She wanted to be the top agent in her city. Margaret analyzed her business and discovered something surprising. Most of her clients came from referrals. Her existing clients were her best source of new business, but she wasn't doing anything to cultivate that source. She would close a sale, hand over the keys, and move on to the next client. Margaret changed her approach. She created a post-sale process. 1. She sent a handwritten thank you note within 24 hours of closing. 2. She called every client 30 days after the sale to check in. 3. She sent a gift basket on the client's first anniversary in their new home. 4. She hosted an annual client appreciation event. 5. She asked for referrals, specifically by name. Do you know anyone in your neighborhood who might be thinking of selling? The result. Within 2 years, Margaret's referral rate doubled. Her business grew by 300%. She became the top agent in her city. Margaret understood the exit strategy. She knew that the sale was just the beginning. The real work and the real profit came after. The dark side, exploiting the relationship. There is a dark side to the exit strategy. When the relationship after the sale is used to exploit the customer, it becomes manipulation. The shadow seller who uses the follow-up call to pressure the customer into buying more is not serving the customer. They are preying on them. The shadow seller who asks for referrals as a demand, not a request, is not building trust. They are abusing it. The shadow seller who offers a refund but makes it nearly impossible to claim is not serving the customer. They are trapping them. The ethical line. Your post-sale relationship must serve the customer, not exploit them. Your follow-up calls must be genuine check-ins, not disguised sales pitches. Your referral asks must be requests, not demands. Your refunds must be easy to claim, not impossible to access. If you are using the relationship to manipulate the customer, you have crossed the line. The practice. How to master the exit strategy. Here is a 4-step practice to master the exit strategy. Step 1. Create a post-sale process. Design a post-sale process that includes a thank you, a follow-up call, a check-in, and a referral ask. Make it systematic. Do it every time. Step 2. Build a referral system. Create a referral system that rewards customers for referring others. Discounts, gifts, recognition, anything that shows your gratitude. Step 3. Be a problem solver. When something goes wrong, fix it quickly. Don't make excuses. Don't blame the customer. Just solve the problem. This builds trust faster than anything else. Step 4. Nurture the relationship. Keep in touch with your customers even when there is no transaction. Send a newsletter. Share useful information. Send a birthday card. Stay present in their lives. When they need your product or service again, they will come to you because you never left. The shadow seller's secret, the lifetime value of a customer. There is one final insight from the underworld that is worth understanding. The shadow seller knows that the first sale is the most expensive. It costs time, energy, and resources. It takes effort to acquire a new customer. But the second sale, the third sale, the referral, those are almost free. They are pure profit. This is called lifetime value LTV. It is the total profit a customer generates over the entire relationship. The shadow seller understands that maximizing LTV is the key to long-term success. They don't just sell once, they sell again and again. They don't just acquire customers, they retain them. Your job as a legitimate salesperson is to adopt the same mindset. The sale is not the end, it is the beginning. The transaction is just the start of a relationship that can generate profit for years. Prioritize the relationship, serve the customer, ask for referrals, and watch your business grow. Action steps: 1. Design your post-sale process. Write down every step you will take after a sale: thank you, follow-up call, check-in, referral, ask. Make it systematic. 2. Create a referral system. Decide how you will reward referrals: discounts, gifts, recognition. Make it generous. 3. Schedule your follow-ups. Put reminders in your calendar. Call every client within 48 hours of the sale. Call again at 30 days. Call again at 90 days. Stay in touch. 4. Be a problem solver. When something goes wrong, fix it immediately. Don't make excuses, just solve it. 5. Ask for referrals. After every successful transaction, ask for a referral. Be specific, be grateful, be persistent. The exit strategy is the 9th and final strategy of the Underworld, and it is the foundation of long-term success. Without the exit strategy, the previous 8 strategies are wasted. The crowd disperses, the certainty fades, the trust erodes, the Trojan Horse is forgotten, the empathy is wasted, the submarine surfaces in vain, the painted door closes, the pivot is meaningless. The exit strategy is what turns a transaction into a lifetime of value. Congratulations! You have now completed a strategic salesman training of the Underworld sales force. You have walked through the shadows. You have studied the Underworld strategies. You have learned how to adapt them for legitimate sales. You have built your good war chest. Now it is time to use it, to sell good stuff, to serve your customers, to build a career that is not just successful but meaningful. The Underworld has taught you well. Now go out there and prove that the unwanted salesman can become the most wanted of all.